Tuscaloosa customers are searching on of business. It's quick, easy, and free. Visit mylocalcustomers.com. That's mylocalcustomers.com.
It's time.
You know what time it is?
Game for Tuscaloosa's longest running sports show.
The biggest goal of our team,
especially in the first half,
we at Bama, we're trying to be the best. Always is to win a national championship.
Something cool to look back on.
We don't want to waste a failure.
You're inside the game.
John Mechie on the ground.
Appreciate your interest in the game.
On your home for Alabama sports.
Alabama wins.
Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app. Powered by Tuscaloosa Toyota. Now, here's your award-winning host, Ryan Fowler.
Chase, what's your favorite radio station? Not show. I'm not making you pick shows, but I'm just curious. As I open up the show, Chase across the glass. Chase, what's your favorite radio station? I want to ask this question. This is proving a point. What's your favorite radio station? If you don't say Tide 100.9, I don't know what I'm going to do. My skit will go out the window.
Tide 100.9 all the way.
Okay, I'm making sure. So if I put you on a committee and I ask that same question, what would you say? Tide 100.9.
Tide 100.9.
And that's what we're doing. When I look at this college football committee, okay, and I do, listen, I like Alabama where they're at. I cannot get over current athletic directors who would benefit financially being on the committee. I just cannot, because think about where we are at in current college athletics. We are in a structure right now. We're broke. We don't have any money. We don't even have enough money to pay this lawsuit, the House settlement that's coming up. When I think about athletic directors, and I think about Ward Manuel, he is obviously a football player. Now, there's some things that I respect the heck about him. When he breaks down teams on this teleconference with us, he doesn't just break down Indiana. He doesn't just break down Ohio State. He doesn't just break down Alabama. He talks about why. Why are they having success? So I'm not saying he's not qualified. That's not where I'm at, because when I'm listening to the teleconference, I mean, he's going through Boise State. He's going player by player. He talks about why they're successful. He talked about Alabama last night and said, hey, listen, the LSU win, how impressed that they were in the committee. But I also think about being a current athletic director. Okay, now we know the integrity problems of Michigan, and I'm not judging Ward Manuel because of that. But I do think about it in my mind, an athletic director that has a financial gain. He has a financial interest in having more Big Ten teams, because at the end of the day, that money is in a pot, and then it will be divided amongst the teams in the Big Ten. I cannot get my head out of there. Your favorite radio station, once again, Tide 100.9.
Yes, sir.
And absolutely. And if you tell me the competition in Birmingham, I'm going to tell you that's the worst I've ever heard. I mean, that place, they're awful. I mean, see how this works? Now, maybe they've got more integrity than I do, but maybe that's the issue, because I would criticize our competition. And it's not just the competition. If you ask me to judge country music stations, we have 2 in our building, and they're the best in the building, okay? 95.3 The Bear, Catfish Country, nobody's even close, okay? That one across town, they're a joke. They couldn't tie their own shoes without asking for help on YouTube, okay? But I look at the committee, and I try to help understand what they're trying to do. Josh from College Football Nerds is going to join us coming up in a couple of minutes. Maybe he can help us, because I do look at it, and I look at this number 7 spot. I'm not complaining about Alabama. That's not where I'm at. But I look at it and I think, okay, are they trying to cover for some of these teams? Are they trying to set it up? If Indiana gets hammered this weekend by Ohio State, is Indiana still going to be there? We're going to talk about that with Josh from College Football Nerds. If Alabama continues their winning ways, at this point, you have to feel pretty comfortable, right? I mean, you win, you're in. You win, you're in. You lose, we'll get ready to go to whatever, bowl that probably not a lot of people will care about. And we really haven't discussed that. But outside this college football playoff, are the bowls really going to matter? I mean, outside of the ones that are part of the 12-team playoff, I think no, because, they're going to become irrelevant. And I don't know if there's anything that you can throw them, a life preserver or, those little floaties that you put on your arm in a pool. I don't know what's going to save these bowls, but it ain't going to be. I don't see it surviving when you look at these mid-major lower tier bowls. If you're in the college football playoff bowl system and the bowl structure, okay, you got a chance. But outside of that, I mean, like, is anybody really going to care about UNLV and Illinois or Iowa State and Missouri? I mean, I'm just picking teams out of the top 25. You're going to make an appointment. Yeah, you'll watch it. You'll have it on. Be fellowshipping with family and friends around the holidays, Christmas holidays, New Year's, all of the above. But when you look at Alabama at that number 7 spot, like I said, I'm not questioning Ward Emanuel. I just look at it from, it's not his fault, okay? It's not his fault that he's volunteered to be the chairman of this committee. It's the college football structure that has allowed him to be in this spot, to be in a spot where we're asking current athletic directors. But you know why we're asking current athletic directors? Because we're too poor to pay college football playoff committee members. And so it's a voluntary job. You volunteer to be on this role, and so you're not getting paid. So the college football playoff structure can look and say, well, he's getting paid by Michigan. He's not really doing it for free. They're going to give him some time, out of his daily work to be able to complete these tasks of the college football selection committee. So that's why they do a lot of that. You look at this college football selection committee. I'm not saying that there's not some good football minds, but it just seems like, and we'll ask Josh. I hope he's not even listening to this segment, because I want to set it up and ask him, when you look at Alabama playing Notre Dame in South Bend, and the reason why you're seeing that possibility is because in the current structure, you would have Miami would be a conference champ. By the way, that's a dumb rule. Having automatic, and sometimes you don't see this until it all plays out, but when you have the highest four conference champions get the bye, I'm not really sure I agree with that. I think that's another part of it that I think that we're going to have to maybe look at a different way. Oregon would be the one. Texas, they've got them as the SEC title winner right now. And then you've got Boise State, which would be 4. Miami would be 3. So you have Texas, Miami, Oregon, and Boise State. Those would be the 4 teams that would be in a bye. So when you take a look at that, you look at the highest 4 champions. So what that does is, because if you look at the rankings, Miami's at 8, Boise State's at 12. You move them down. I'm talking about the 5 through 8. So 5 through 8, if everybody was, the highest 4 was 1, 2, 3, 4, then 5 through 8 would be the host sites. But Alabama at number 7 would actually have to travel, because you have to push those teams down. So you push them down, and then the 5 to 8 host then a college football playoff at your home venue, then all that changes. So that's why you're seeing Alabama would have to go at a 7 on the road at Notre Dame, and I hope I explained that well. We'll talk about the opponent percentage, because many of you have asked the question about the criteria of the tiebreaker. I think Josh does a brilliant job of kind of studying these analytics. We'll do that coming up in a couple of minutes. We'll also continue our Southern Ale House score prediction day. We will not be able to do this tomorrow. It'll just be one day, so this will be it. And once we're done, we're done. And then next week we'll have to squeeze in. I mean, man, we'll have to hit the ground running on Monday, because of the Thanksgiving holiday, kind of cutting the show there short. So we'll do a lot of different things. We'll talk about this Alabama and Oklahoma game. We'll break down from Josh and College Football Nerds. I don't know if there's a lot to recap with Mercer, but I got a lot of generic questions around college football. I'd love to get his thoughts on what Indiana can do to make that competitive, and then we'll dive into it coming up in a couple of minutes. As you are listening to Tuscaloosa's longest-running sports show, we are always powered by Tuscaloosa Toyota. TuscaloosaToyota.com, 3325 Skyline Boulevard, and online at TuscaloosaToyota.com. How about a Highlander? How about a RAV4? How about a Camry? How about a Corolla? How about a Tacoma, 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive? How about a $1,000 Christmas holiday bonus cash on the 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive Tacoma and the Tundra, 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive? Tuscaloosa Toyota, TuscaloosaToyota.com. Jackson, what's your favorite radio station? What's your favorite radio station, huh?
Clearly, it's all the 200 that are owned by George Soros.
Oh, so
just kidding. It's tied 100.9.
Okay, I was trying to. I'm putting this up on a T, and maybe we should have ran through the skit. But I was asking Chase his favorite radio station, because that's what we're doing with the selection committee. I mean, that's what we're asking them. And maybe Josh is a. For those who may or may not know, Josh is highly. He calls it college. He calls it college football nerds for a reason. Okay, engineering, is an engineer, went to law school, and he studies analytics. So he does.
He should be on the financial side. He'd probably make a killing.
Maybe we could put him on the committee. He'd probably do as good of a job as these cats. Like I said, I just smell something that they're cooking, and I don't like it.
Well, the whole complaint during the BCS era was that the computer models sucked. But now they're looking a lot better.
See, we can't blame computers because it's not like we were AI in the BCS, okay? We plugged the algorithm in. If the algorithm was bad, then we had a bad algorithm. So the metrics that we were using to judge the two teams in the BCS, we always blame the computers. Them darn computers. Man, I can't believe they spit out those two teams. Well, we're the ones who plugged in the data points. There was a lot of human element to that, too. The legend. I just saw it being released a couple of minutes ago. Chris Lowe breaking the story. Now, there's multiple other people that have now confirmed it. Jim McElwain is going to be retiring at Central Michigan, according to Chris Lowe. He was the first one who broke that. Coach Mack, coached here at the University of Alabama, won 2 national titles, was a huge part of the dynasty getting started from 2008 to 2011, his final game, beating LSU in the Sugar Bowl. So we'll salute him for what he means to the University of Alabama. He's still got a lot of friends. I know that my doctor is real good friends with him. Brian Hardens, which is a huge sponsor of our show, is a big friend with Mac. And matter of fact, I've went to Brian's house when Mac was there and had some great conversations about Alabama football. We have Mac on here all the time. So Jim McElwain, Central Michigan, retiring. You wonder, at his age, 62. You wonder if the structure is just too much. It's just, the world of chaotic. I was on a call this morning with Tommy Tuberville, the senator, and I proposed the question about the NIL because, the way that he described it of chaos, and he also said now we don't have any excuses. We've got the judicial branch that kind of leans the conservative way, even though that there was a unanimous call a couple of years ago. But you've got both legislative branches, the executive branch. Maybe there could be some on the same page to possibly get some NIL parameters in place and organize this world of college football. We won't spend a lot of time talking about that. Let's go to Josh from collegefootballnerds.com. Josh from collegefootballnerds.com. Hey, Josh, welcome back to T-Town. I hope you're doing well.
Thanks for having me, Ryan.
Josh, I want to get into a lot of different things, but I want to ask you about Mercer. Anything that grabbed you from the perspective of knocking these guys out 52-7?
Frankly, Ryan, it's just hard to take much away from those games, which I think Alabama fans also understand. Mercer was pretty well outgunned from the jump. The one thing I will say, in that opener, Oregon struggled with Idaho. And I was pretty vocal at the time. I even went so far as to keep Oregon ahead of Ohio State in my rankings, which people, I took so much heat for that on our channel when I did that the first couple of weeks, because I saw some things with Oregon to say, look, I think Idaho is probably just a really good team. And that's because Idaho was the number 8 team in FCS. And a big thing I'll say about Mercer that gets overlooked is this Mercer team is number 9 in FCS. And the difference between a good FCS team and a bad FCS team is no different than the difference between a good FBS team like Alabama and somebody like San Jose State. And Mercer is somebody that if you're not executing and you're blowing coverages, if you're not playing your assignments, they're going to put points up on you, and defensively they can give you issues. And so I don't think that game was quite as trivial. Alabama had to execute well to win, and they did that, and that says a lot. But if you go beyond that, athletically, there's no question Mercer wasn't able to compete. So if Alabama did what they were supposed to do and executed reasonably well, just like Ryan Williams a couple times in the red zone, right? You just saw him just kind of clean run around everybody. There's not a whole lot to take away from that other than Ryan Williams is a lot better than anybody on Mercer's team. So I think Alabama did everything that you wanted to see him do. And I will say with the backups, I was both impressed, but also understanding why Alabama was the way it was. In terms of their current depth chart, you could see the talent and the depth. Lost a guy, Ty Simpson, the quarterback, Young at running back. But, honestly, from my perspective, I also saw why the starters are who they are. Simpson bailed on clean pockets a number of times. He made some great plays, showed that he's a really underrated athlete with a great arm. but I thought, frankly, he was a little bit manic. He looked like a kid that hasn't played a lot of football. And they'll get that ironed out by the time he's a starter. But, people, including myself, who were questioning why didn't they put him in against Tennessee, honestly, I saw that. I mean, when he got thrown into that game, he looked like somebody just hadn't played a lot. I think you would have seen him create some negative plays if he'd been thrown into a hostile road game environment. So there are a lot of positives there, and that's all stuff they're going to build on. But it also kind of confirmed, I think, the coaching staff, unsurprisingly, knows what they're doing.
All right, let's go to the college football playoff ranking. I think it's awesome that you can be a part of Wednesday's show and you can kind of give us some reaction because of your specialty of analytics. When you look at the college football playoff rankings, not in the SEC, but just a general thought, any big takeaways that you guys have? Because I follow you on Twitter, CFB Nerds, and you guys always have some strong opinions. I'm not sure if that's you or if it's Daniel or both of you guys, kind of a combination. But let's react to college football playoff rankings that were released last night.
Yeah, I mean, our Twitter at CFB Nerd, I always like to joke that I have the good tweets and then all the rest are Daniel's.
Oh, okay. Okay, I got it. Okay, Daniel. Okay, well, so he was the guy that was firing those off last night.
Well, a lot of them were. But no, a lot of the statistics heavy tweets are me, but they definitely come from both. One thing that I tweeted about today, well, I guess last night, and you may have seen that, it's so hard to evaluate these teams. And I want to make clear, to your point about the committee and the structure, not being an issue, it's the structure. We've expanded conferences to where, like let's take the Big Ten. They used to play 9 of the 13 other teams in the Big Ten every year, right? You're playing 9 of 13. You're playing, about 80% of the teams in your conference every year. Now they play 9 of 17. And so you go from playing almost all of them to playing just barely half. And the problem is because schedules are going to differ, some schedules are going to be much harder than others. Indiana is the one that everybody's talking about right now at number 5. And Indiana has the weakest strength of schedule in the entirety of every power conference, including the Big 12 and the ACC. And the thing I tweeted about, if you look at FPI, which is probably the best power rating, at least the best publicly available power rating out there now that SP Plus is paywalled, Indiana has not played a top 40 team. Not a single one. The best team they played was Michigan, who's number 43. Georgia has played 7 top 40 teams. They played 4 top 10 teams. And so if you were to think if Indiana was theoretically, let's say they were the 40th best team in the country, they beat everybody they're supposed to beat, they lose to everybody they're supposed to lose to. Indiana would be 10-0 with their schedule. They would be 3-7 with Georgia's schedule. And I don't know what you can do with that. And now Indiana is a weird case because you can't really blame them for the Big Ten setting this schedule, which I think a lot of this was the Big Ten foolishly believing Michigan and Washington were going to be the same teams they were last year. Clearly they're not. They're both mediocre to bad teams. That really impacted the way the balance in the Big Ten worked out when they set these schedules, I think, that they did not realize who was going to be good and bad. But Indiana also bought out their game against Louisville. They were supposed to be playing Louisville, bought that out, replaced them with, I believe it was Western Michigan, Western Illinois. So you got to take some heat for that. And I kind of have a problem to put it in perspective, Ryan. It's actually, let's forget SEC versus Big Ten. They have Penn State right now at 4th and Indiana at 5th. Penn State struggled multiple times, struggled to beat with Wisconsin. They had to beat USC in overtime. They've already lost to Ohio State. Outside the Ohio State game, their strength of schedule is only barely better than Indiana. That really is their only game of note. Why are they ahead of Indiana when they've already lost their hard game? And at least Indiana hasn't played theirs. And by the way, the teams Indiana beat, they beat them badly. So I don't know. But again, they beat Northwestern 41-24. And you think, okay, well, that's really great. They pummeled them. Do you know that's also actually only the 5th biggest blowout the Northwestern suffered this year? 4 other Big Ten teams beat them by more than that. So, I mean, I kind of feel for Indiana because I don't know what else they can do given how well they've won games. But when your hardest game is Michigan and you won that game by 5, I mean, I think they ought to be in the playoff. I just don't think they should be number 5 ahead of Alabama and Georgia, personally. I think they should be floating more around 9 or 10.
All right, just judging on what we know from this college football selection committee, judging them, based on 3 weeks of, I think it's 3 weeks that we've got our sample. This is the third week, if I'm not mistaken. Then we'll have, but let's say Indiana loses to Ohio State this weekend. Let's say they keep it somewhat respectable. You still, because all they have left would be Purdue, right? There could be a mathematical formula that could put them in the Big Ten. Am I right about that? I mean, they could work their way to the Big Ten championship, or no?
I'm not sure how that would be possible because Ohio State has played Penn State and Indiana. Ohio State, by the way, and all this, for what it's worth, Ohio State's a team that's kind of gotten a shaft. There are 4 teams in the Big Ten that are at the top of the Big Ten standings, okay? Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, Indiana. Those are the big 4, way ahead of everyone else. Of those 4, 3 of the 4 do not play any of each other. That's Oregon, Indiana, and Penn State. None of them play the other in that 3. Ohio State plays everybody else. So Ohio State definitely got the shaft there. And the thing is, Ohio State beat Penn State. They will have beaten Indiana. Oregon mathematically is locked into the conference championship game. I'm not sure if you're aware of that. They're guaranteed a slot. That happened this weekend, or this past weekend. So if Ohio State beats Indiana, the only way Indiana could go would be if Ohio State loses to Michigan and has 2 conference losses. Otherwise, they have the head-to-head over Penn State and Indiana. If they were to lose to Michigan, then it comes down to Penn State and Indiana. And I don't know the tiebreaker scenario there, but given the strength of schedule and everything else, I have to think it favors Penn State. So point being that I think if Indiana loses this game, it's all but impossible for them to make the conference title. All
right. With that being said, if Indiana loses to Ohio State, do you still see them in the college football playoffs?
I think they likely will be. I think there's a real argument they shouldn't be, but I think they probably will be. But again, Penn State is really similar right today to where Indiana would be if they lost that game, which, again, it's bizarre that Penn State's ahead of them, and they're sitting at number 4. So I can't think the committee is going to drop them too far at 11-1, even with their, again, I haven't gone back and looked, but they may have the worst strength of schedule of a Big Ten team in like 10 or 20 years. I mean, I don't, when people say it's weak, I don't think they understand how weak. But yeah, I think they still probably end up in.
All right, let's go to Penn State. When you look at Penn State as a team, do they look like a championship caliber team to you?
Personally, my answer is kind of no. Now, I've taken major heat from Penn State fans all year for this, and they view me as a major Penn State hater. It's ironic. My wife's a big Penn State fan. Her whole family, there are tons of huge Penn State fans, live in Pennsylvania, a lot of Penn State grads. I just don't think they're there. And the trick in that is if you look back, 1-score win over Bowling Green, overtime win over USC, pulled away late versus Wisconsin, lost. I know it was a close game. They didn't feel overly competitive with Ohio State. And when I say that, I mean, they were outgained by, about 100 yards in that game. I have not really seen anything from Penn State that makes me think they're a title team. Now, there aren't many teams this year, and by not many, I mean, I don't think there really are any that have looked truly, completely, consistently dominant. So you give Penn State a bit of a pass there. But, I mean, if Penn State was to play Alabama or Georgia or Ole Miss tomorrow, I almost guarantee you those SEC teams would be favored over them. So I think the odds of them running the gauntlet in a playoff are slim to likely non-existent.
All right, so let's go back to the SEC. The way that it stands right now, what do you see? 3, 4? What would be the minimum number you think that's in this college football playoffs? Because I'm going to ask you the question. You know where I'm going because I'm asked this question all the time, and I said I got to need to save it over because it almost changes week by week. But when you look at the SEC, how many teams you see currently? You got Texas. You've got Alabama, the second highest ranked team in the SEC. Ole Miss, Georgia, Tennessee. You got Texas A&M probably on the outside unless they beat Texas. Then they could work their way back into the conversation.
I mean, I think this number is 4 unless Notre Dame loses. I think that's what it pretty much has to be. And in fact, as much as it's a chaotic year, Ryan, I think something flying under the radar is when you get outside the top 10 and realize right now it's about being in the top 10 because the Big 12 champion is almost certainly going to be outside the top 12. And the ACC champion has a decent shot of being right in the back end of the top 12. ACC champion, and then it's the G5 is what I'm thinking of. The top G5 champion has to be in, and they're not going to be top 12, which means the 11th and 12th seeds have to go to those champions. One of which will actually end up being the 4th seed because this format is incredibly stupid, and the top 4 champions have to be the top 4 seeds. Even if one of those champions is not a top 12 team themselves, it doesn't matter. It's just the top 4 champions. So that means we're just talking about the top 10 slots. And just the way everything shakes out, it's going to be hard for it to be more than 4, unless Notre Dame loses. And if they lose again, they're going to be out. And then you probably get Tennessee squeaking in. Otherwise, I don't think Indiana falls out, and it would take a major upset from the rest of the teams. And again, if Ole Miss or Georgia gets upset, then they're going to fall out anyway. But the thing I'd note, Ryan, is when you look at the next teams down, SMU, BYU, Texas A&M sitting there at 15th. I mean, Texas A&M at 15th, South Carolina at 18th. There's a big drop-off. And so as much as there's this log jam around 10th, it's kind of in a very narrow range from like 8th through 12th. And everything past then is really distant. So I don't think you're going to see a major shakeup in terms of numbers. And even the teams that could jump in to the top would be someone like Texas A&M if they beat Texas. And they're probably just going to replace another SEC team anyway. So you end up with the same number.
You've heard the complaint. Lane Kiffin has voiced it. He did not say, but he said other coaches in this league that don't prefer to go to Atlanta. Do you believe him?
I believe there's at least one.
Okay.
And, I think he sometimes goes by the alias of Mr. Freshwater. But outside Kiffin, there were probably coaches that secretly feel that way. I doubt any of them would tell you that. But, we talked about when this format was introduced, Ryan, last year even, I told you I thought the number 5 team actually has a big advantage in this format because it's the top non-champion. And you're probably better off being the 3rd team in the SEC most years, missing the SEC championship game, which realize is effectively giving you a bye, right? Because you're not playing that week. And then you play your first round versus the number 12 team. And that number 12 team is going to be somebody like last year, it would have been Liberty, who lost 45-6 to Oregon. So you basically get a bye conference championship week, even though you don't get a bye in the playoff, you get a bye anyway because you don't play in the conference championship. And your first round game ends up being against by far the worst team in the tournament. And then because of the screwed up way everything shakes out, you actually end up with the easiest bracket to the championship. He's not wrong. I can only say this till I'm blue in the face. Having automatic slots with the top teams, one, I'm opposed to it anyway. I think you should be in the top 12 if you want to make the playoffs. 12 teams is more than enough for a great G5 team to make it. All those UCF teams that people complained about, they were top 8 teams. They would have made this playoff easily. But if you are going to do automatic slots, then you need to rank them 1 through 12 best to worst, because that's the way every playoff, including college basketball, works. And the reason is when you make a bracket, it needs to be seeded best to worst, so the whole bracket makes sense. But because it's so screwy and because this was done politically, not logically or rationally or by anybody that understands the sport, you actually are in an advantage to not play in the conference championship game for several reasons. So I'm sure there are a lot of coaches that think like Kiffin in terms of, well, if we don't make the SEC championship game, it's kind of a bummer, but, actually secretly I'm glad because it gives us the best chance for a title. But at the same time, I'm sure they're all going to play for the conference championship because they're going to play every game to win, and that's what winners do.
All right, so Josh, when you think about this Alabama pathway, it's there for them to go to Atlanta. I mean, to think about where we were at, a month ago, and to think about this team has now put themselves in a position to win an SEC title if they can get some help. And we're just kind of assuming that Missouri's going to be able to go to Stark Vegas and be able to pull off a win. Everybody else has. they need to beat Arkansas, or they need to beat Mississippi State. We think they'll probably get this, and that may put a little more pressure on the Iron Bowl. You win Oklahoma, you beat the Auburn Tigers, and you make that 5th in a row for those guys and hand them another losing season, your chance to go to Atlanta.
Right. And, for anybody that doesn't know, if all the favorites went out the rest of the way, and it really doesn't even matter for Alabama's sake, if Alabama wins out their last 2 games and Missouri beats one of Mississippi State and Arkansas, which are probably two of, if not the 2 worst teams in the conference, Alabama's guaranteed to be in. All that has to happen is that Alabama has to win out. Missouri has to beat Mississippi State, which is by far the worst team in the SEC. And Alabama makes the SEC championship. They're sitting pretty. We figured they were out of that race when we talked 6 or 7 weeks ago. I don't think anybody expected the sheer amount of chaos that we've gotten. And, Ryan, I will say the flip side of this, as much as Alabama's way is paved pretty clearly, the funny thing is Texas's is probably not. They can lose to Texas A&M, and that's not going to be shocking. And suddenly they're a 2-loss team in the tiebreaker world, and their strength of record is pretty terrible. I'm not sure of the reality of all that, but I have to think Georgia probably ends up getting the tiebreaker over Texas in that situation. So it's honestly interesting that in terms of controlling their own fate, Alabama's in a good position. But I think a lot of people take it for granted they'll play Texas when that's almost less certain than Alabama being in at this point.
And people ask me all the time about Tennessee. You correct me if I'm wrong. The reason why you throw head-to-head out because there's more than 2 teams that were tied for the actual 2 losses in the SEC. So then it would go to the next, would be opponent winning percentage, and that's where Alabama has the advantage.
That's right. Yeah, the whole head-to-head thing works when there's just 2 teams, or it works when you have the head-to-head over everyone you're tied with. But it doesn't work because Alabama has the head-to-head over Georgia with 2 losses, who has the head-to-head over Tennessee with 2 losses, we can go round and round in circles there. And so the moment that situation happens, it gets thrown out the window. So the head-to-head doesn't matter because it can't actually resolve the full tiebreak, if that makes sense. Then all the SEC rules from then on out, they just come down to who played the hardest schedule. And Alabama's conference opponents have the best records of everyone in the SEC. Assuming Missouri wins one more game, then it's mathematically locked in that Alabama will have the hardest schedule within conference play of any SEC team, and that's why they have such an inside track.
Josh, a final question. I promise you I'm going to get you out of here. I looked up at the time and I'm 41 after, and my producer is looking at me like, man, you just ran right through that. One more quick question. I have a major problem with these ADs, current ADs, and whether it's Ward Emanuel or whether it's another one of the ADs that are on this committee, they have a financial gain. We are strapped for cash right now in the world of college football. We're broke. We're about to give in broker because of the House settlement. It puts more, to me, pressure on these guys. They may have more integrity than I do, but I just have a problem understanding that you truly benefit by putting more teams in from a certain conference. Is my response valid?
I mean, that's all politics. I think maybe so. My for long-term prediction is I always felt like 6 was the right number. I think that's been proven right. 12 is too many. The second thing is when we moved to 12, even in the preseason in our show, Daniel and I, when we broke down the new format, explained that we thought it was a mistake that they kept conference championship games. And I think that's also playing out. I think what we're going to see from the Big Ten and the SEC is they're going to say, you know what, we're doing away with the conference championship game, which is a big moneymaker. But they're either going to do away with it or they'll keep it. But they'll say, look, we're going to put 4 teams each in the 12-team playoff every year, no matter what. And they're going to do that because that lets their teams play as hard a schedule as they want. It lets them play hard out-of-conference games. And right now, the problem we have is that you have an Indiana team that did not play any power team out of conference and, in fact, bought out their game against Louisville so they wouldn't, and they're a top 5 team. And I think the conferences that have the money and that are cash-strapped like you're saying, they're about to pay $30 million a year each for this settlement. They're going to say, look, we have all the cards here. We've got all the power. We're just going to put 4 teams in every year no matter what, and you guys can take 4 and be happy. Because if you're not happy with that, we're just going to form our own playoff, and we don't care what happens to you. And I hate that's the way football is headed, but it seems to be where it's headed. And let me say one thing, Ryan, because I know you got to jump.
You're fine. You're fine.
You mentioned McElwain earlier when I was jumping on.
Sure.
You talked about retiring a record. Is there any rumor about whether that's related to the NCAA investigation? Because I'd have to think that immediately comes to mind, because he's implicated in the sign stealing scandal, because when our old pal, the Michigan staffer, showed up at a Central Michigan game in a ridiculous pair of sunglasses and a Central Michigan outfit and scouted, I think it was Michigan State, right? Immediately the question was whether McElwain was involved, because he'd been on staff previously with him. And that investigation's been ongoing and supposed to be concluding. And now we hear word that McElwain wasn't fired, but retired. So I haven't heard anything.
Let me say this. Knowing some people that know Mac, I don't think I think the retirement thing has been out there for a couple of years, even prior to this allegation. So I think he has been wanting to get away from the world of college football, and I think he probably. I'm not saying that this was not the opportunity. I don't know a lot about those details. I just know that I've been here for some time, and he's getting close. So at the age of 62, he just seems to be one of those guys that he has a place up on, I think it's Glacier Bay, up in Montana. What's that national park that's up in northern Montana? He has a beautiful home up there that he spends a lot of the off season. So I think that's the goal, was to be able to get back there. I think that's what I've heard, but maybe there is something there. I just don't know enough about it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know either, but I mean, he previously coached with Connor Stallions as a GA. And there was a lot of speculation about that because the two had been associated when he shows up in a Central Michigan sideline. And I don't know anything other than I was on the radio with you when that broke, right? So I know nothing.
Okay.
I'm just throwing out, the guy wasn't fired. He retired. And as I understand it, what you're saying, he retired in the middle of the season?
Yeah, just got it announced just a little bit ago. Yeah, I mean, Chris,
guys don't usually retire in the middle of the season to go to their hunting cabin in the woods. That's usually something that happens.
Well, and I wonder if he's going to continue to coach throughout the season. It doesn't say. It's very generic. Not a lot of other details other than he's going to retire. But tell you what, we'll try to get Mac on. I don't know if he would come on, but I would imagine he would. It just says he's retiring according to sources telling ESPN. It is literally Jim McElwain is retiring as coach at Central Michigan. Sources told ESPN. So, hey, Josh, appreciate you, man. CollegeFootballNerds.com. CollegeFootballNerds.com. There's some great models there if you want to go and compare what Alabama would be able to do to Notre Dame, or if you want to do Alabama and Indiana, or if you want to compare Alabama and Boise State or whomever, you can do that at collegefootballnerds.com. CFB Nerds on the Twitter account. Find it there. Also go to YouTube. Subscribe to what they're able to do. It's comprehensive. I know we are able to spend a lot of time here diving in the world of college football, but you can do it at CFB Nerds. Do a search for it, collegefootballnerds.com, but also on the YouTube channel. Subscribe and click that subscribe button. Josh, I appreciate you. It's Wednesday. It's hump day. We're doing a Southern Ale House score prediction day. Southern Ale House score prediction day. And if you're thinking about going over and seeing our good friends, Southern Ale House, great lunch specials every single day, but also dinner specials that include, if you look for later this evening, you've got the coffee prime rib, the smoked pork chop, and the chicken parmesan. Those are some great options. You can also get the chicken parmesan at Dockside as well. Some great seafood entrees, including my favorite, the fried shrimp. And also a different bread pudding that I don't know a lot about. Sticky taffy bread pudding. Sticky taffy bread pudding. Available. Southern Ale House. Score prediction day. Let's go here. 205-342-9904. Wayne, Northport. Wayne, good afternoon. You're in the game. I hope all is well, man.
Good afternoon, Ryan. Everything's fine. Listen, I'm going to get my score real quick and just get off here because I've had an emergency come up.
Uh-oh.
So
okay.
I'm all right, though. No problems.
Okay. Yeah.
My score is 34-17, and the tiebreaker's Oklahoma yards, right?
It is total yards by the Oklahoma Boomer Sooners.
275.
275. All right, Wayne. Have a great rest of your day, man. Thank you.
All right, you too, man. Have a good one.
Right back to you. I was on this morning with Kalen DeBoer on the teleconference, SEC teleconference. We had practice this morning as well. And coaches are talking about rat poison. Robert, I'm going to hold you over to the top of the hour. We'll take Robert on the other side. You go back to this. Like I said, I just cannot get my head out of this college football selection committee. Maybe I'm just bogged down with it. Forget about it, man. Forget about it. But I do look and I think about, well, but if you're not going to pay these guys, how are you going to get guys to do it? Like Greg Byrne is a part of the NCAA selection committee for basketball. He was on the committee. I'm not sure if he's rotated off, but he was on that committee as far as the basketball side of things, because I heard all the doubts and people throwing allegations. And maybe next time we have Greg Byrne on, we can ask about that. How hard is it to be able to remove yourself, to be able to say, okay, I'm not sharing any bias. I'm not going to try to use that, because we were taught bias is just there. You got to be able to calculate. You do that by increasing the sample size. You can remove or reduce the bias there. The college football playoff side of things, you look at the SEC runner-up, what will happen based on that. And I will say that we were listening to Ward Manuel following the TV portion. That's the part that is televised when we also have an SEC teleconference. And he pretty much said, well, every game matters. So I see people out here talking about it, saying that it would be an automatic based on that teleconference that we were part of late last night. I don't know if I see that the same way, or at least my ears didn't hear it the same way that some did. So like I said, is Alabama in if they go to Atlanta? I mean, let's say you go over there and you lose by double digits. Say you get beat by 10 points. Let's say Texas maybe is the team that we think they're capable of. Yeah, then maybe. All right, we welcome you right back into the game here in Tuscaloosa. Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC. And we do look at this college football playoff, and we look at all these different things that we're talking about. College football selection committee, you win, you're in, and you lose, then you got a long way to kind of dig your way out, and this year would not be one of those years. I know we kind of hypothetically talked about it in August. 9-3 might be able to get you in. Doesn't look that way right down at this point. I think it would take a lot of disaster in the world of the regular season the last couple of weeks. We'll go to Robert in Mobile. Let's go to Kalen DeBoer when you look at the college football playoff, and how do you manage this? How do you block this out? I think you're going to like what he says. This is Kalen DeBoer when he was asked that question about college football playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really talk about the outside. We just focus on what we're doing right now, because we know that if we don't take care of our business, the rest of it doesn't matter. So, and that, I guess, it seems simple. I hope it's simple for our guys, even though I understand the distractions and the noise is out there everywhere. And, I think we've really honed in, and the guys really believe on, and have understood the significance of just really focusing on where we're at now. We talk about the next play is the most important play, the next game is the most important game. We haven't thought anything beyond, Oklahoma. And I even go back to this last week. I think our guys did a great job of just focusing on Mercer. I really do. I think they really honed in on trying to make themselves the best they can be, continue to get better, and that will put us in a position to where then now playing Oklahoma, we give ourselves a better chance to win. So we're really, I think, locked in on the right things right now.
And so we listened to Kalen DeBoer talking about that, the things that you're hearing behind the scenes, and understanding that all that stuff is null if you're able to lose, if you slip up and lose to Oklahoma. We're doing a Southern Ale House score prediction day. It's Alabama, Oklahoma. Alabama goes to Norman, Oklahoma. Many of you are going to make your way out there if you're driving. It's a long way. 700 miles from Tuscaloosa all the way out to Norman, Oklahoma. Robert in Mobile. Robert, good afternoon. You're in the game. I hope all is well.
Hey, man.
How are you, Robert?
Well, they'll have picked up some of the cheapest tickets I've seen Alabama play in an SEC competition.
You brought that to my attention, and I was doing a Q&A with Athlon Sports. They called me and wanted to do a Q&A, and I actually used that. I used that line because I went and looked. That's crazy. And Chris Plank saying yesterday that maybe they've kind of not melded in, but they've kind of given up on Brent Venables. I mean, year number 3, they want him fired.
Yeah, they've given up. We'll see how much the team has given up, but yeah, the fans are definitely giving up. And, you know, if they were a little closer, I think that the majority of the fans would be Alabama fans in that stadium. It's too bad they're so far away. But this has been some season, isn't it? We started off on I'm a chart man. If I charted this season, it would be starting off on a really high note. And then, after the Georgia game, we peaked, and then we hit a valley with Vanderbilt and South Carolina, and we really peaked. We're really at the bottom with Tennessee. That's our stock hit its lowest point. But now our stock is on the uptick. You know, that stock's going back up again. It's we're on a roll, and it's about ready to peak. They're in the best position they need to be. You know, they're in complete control of their own destiny once again. After Tennessee 4 weeks ago, we didn't think we were thinking if this team loses and if that team loses, and do we need help here and there? No. You know, we're in the couple of weeks, 2 weeks left in the season. Alabama's in complete control of their destiny. They're one of the few teams that have total control. Only they in Texas have complete control of their destiny in the SEC.
Yeah, because, I mean, Tennessee said, and I understand the frustration. When you look at Tennessee, you're sitting there going, hold on a minute, we beat Alabama. Why are they ahead of us? And then, you know, last week they did flip it. They had Ole Miss behind Georgia with a win. And so now they fixed it, right? Ole Miss beating Georgia. And if you look at, you know, that's where it's going to come jammed up, right? That's where your frustration is going to come. As you said, Texas, boom. They beat Texas A&M, they're in. Alabama, you beat Oklahoma. And if you get a pathway to the SEC title game, you win, you're in. As you said, you can control it. But the frustration and the angst comes from Ole Miss, Georgia, and Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, it's
I'd hate to be in that spot, man. That spot's because you're asking.
You did a lot of good.
Well, and I just feel, you know, when Josh was going through the different metrics around the Big Ten and talking about Indiana has not beaten a team in the top 40, I'm just glad we did not go to 9 conference games. Nick Saban wanted to go for 10, then he backed off to 9. We saw it in 2020 during the COVID year. It is a challenge to run through this SEC. Even that was the outlier.
More of a challenge.
Oh, my man.
Now, Stockman made it to more of a challenge with the advent of Texas and Oklahoma. Maybe next season Oklahoma will be the challenge. It'll be a challenge. But, yeah, we made it a lot tougher. You're right. It's a good thing they didn't go to 9. It would have been fun for us as fans, but, yeah, we're going to make it even tougher for the SEC. No, we're great we're good where we are. Like I said, Alabama and Texas, the only 2 SEC teams left that are in complete control of their destiny. Alabama wins out, they're one of the top 4 teams in college. They'll be ranked most likely number 4 if everything holds set. No, I guess number 3. No, they could move to number 3. Because that means they would. So
you're assuming that they would go and beat. That you win the SEC championship. I mean, stop right there. Okay, right. Let's say that you don't win a college football playoff game. Somehow you get knocked out. Let's just stop right there. Just stop right there. Think about Alabama winning an SEC title.
And it's worth it this season. It's worth it. You wouldn't need the SEC championship and if you go through and win the SEC championship, you're in the top 4. So if the SEC championship game,
the SEC title. I mean, you're guaranteed. Now, I do look at this. That top 4 is going to have to be discussed. So why would you bump a team like Boise State that it's at 12 all the way to the top 4? I mean, come on. I mean, if we're having trouble deciding that conference is comparable to the other conferences, then we have a bad set of metrics.
Yeah, that's not happening. The only debate will be.
No. It can happen. No, it can happen.
Where the committee put Boise, okay, they've already decided that's not going to happen. They got Boise barely at 12.
No, Robert. I know we're in a learning curve, but here's the problem. If they win their conference and they're the 4th highest rated conference, they're in this thing. They're in the bye week, so they would get a bye. So it's not about where they're at. That's why Alabama. So Alabama, because if right now it's 7, you think, okay, 5 through 8, right? 5, 6, 7, 8. You'd have a home game. Reason why they're going to South Bend, if the season ended right now, then you would have Alabama would go to South Bend. Well, the reason why you're getting bumped back is you have Miami that would also be they're assuming that Miami would win as a conference title. Okay, so they would be one of the highest conference champions. And by doing that, they would also get a bye. So you got Boise State, who are behind Alabama. Miami's behind Alabama. They would slide in front of Alabama simply because they would be a conference champ. Now, if Alabama wins the conference champ, then we don't care. Then it'll be Texas's problem or Texas A&M or Ole Miss or Georgia.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. My
bad. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If Alabama wins out, that means including the SEC championship game, which makes it valuable this year. The SEC championship game this year is valuable because it puts you in the top 4. So the winner of the SEC championship game will be in the top 4. So,
but I still think that right there has got to be looked at. And Josh said it a couple of minutes ago. 12 teams, probably a little bit too many.
Too many?
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's not too many. That's a nice and perfect number. It fixes everything. Everybody's good.
It's not a perfect number because we're going to 16 in 2 years.
I know. Now you may be getting into the too many number. But and again, if you want to do this, you better start paying these players.
Remember, and I hate to get in these rants about college football playoffs, but why do we have 12? It was simply because they could not agree that we wanted the 8 best teams in college football.
Well, and that's fine because as we've seen this season, that is quite relative. It's about this season has shown it's not as easy to pick those 8 teams as it used to be. There are some teams that would be left out of these 8 that are deserving and can upset someone. Notre Dame did beat Texas A&M. They did do it. So picking that 8 is not easy.
I agree, I get it, but Notre Dame. Now, they cannot be a part of the 4 teams, so they would not get a bye regardless. The highest they can be is 5. I like that because you're telling them, okay, you're willing to stay out of a conference. Well, there's repercussions for that. If you're not going to do the conference, then I get it.
And Texas A&M's on the bubble right now. They have a chance at 12. They would not have a chance at 8. And I would put them. I would say they're a dangerous team for anybody going in there. So 12 this year. There are 12 teams that, hey, if they get hot, they can run this thing. And Texas A&M will be one of those teams. So, 12 is perfect. Now when you get down to 16, Colorado really? Would Colorado really run it? I don't know. I don't believe that. Would BYU really run it? Would SMU really run it? No, I don't see that happening.
But, the other part of this is we're talking about chalk, right? We're literally saying chalk is going to happen. All the favorites are going to win. Missouri's going to be able to beat. But in a lot of ways, you back up and you think about this college football playoff model. What if we get chaos? Like, as much as we're sitting here going, well, Alabama's going to beat Oklahoma, Alabama's going to beat Auburn. What if they don't? Okay, so we can
if they don't, like what your man said yesterday, we need to look hard at killing for if they don't win.
But anything can happen, right? You could have an injury. You could have a.
Yes, it can. Even with the injury quarterback.
Let's just do a crazy hypothetical. Let's say Oregon somehow loses their game. Let's say Indiana beats Ohio State. Let's say Texas A&M beats Texas. So we're Penn State.
Now that's more about
that's what I'm talking about. When you look at chaos, now it's chances of it happening, but we've also seen a lot of chaotic things happening in the world of college football. But what if some of these scenarios? Because we could see a watered down college football play. As much as we're kind of excited about, okay, this is a good looking college football.
It would be watered down.
No, it would be watered down. Okay, go put SMU and BYU and Texas A&M and Indiana. And some of these teams, come on.
The committee would.
But they may not have an option, right? They may not have an option.
They would have an option, especially right now, because you're only talking about one more loss for Texas, 9-2. Okay, then BYU's not going to jump. Neither is SMU. You're talking about Oregon with one loss. Okay, they're not going to get jumped. Ohio State with 2 losses, they're not going to get jumped by these schools. That's why, when you go past 12, it starts to get Texas A&M is the only team past 12 that's worth looking at, and and most likely they'll probably get to number 12.
And Oregon, the way they played against Wisconsin, that makes that Wisconsin game look really impressive for Alabama.
Yeah, it does. It does. And that's what I'm saying. Out of 16 teams, fine, whatever. If you're paying the player, that gives me something to bet on or something to look at. But okay, let's start to get, especially even with this season, as competitive as it's been after 12, it starts to get other than Texas A&M, I'm not seeing anybody else worth looking at. And Texas A&M is the only team past 12 worth looking at. The rest of them, you can put a fork in it. They're not going to do anything. Okay, that's fine. It gives me something else to look at. It gives me more games I want to watch. So that's fine. So I still, 12 is the perfect number. If they go beyond that, okay, it's an interesting scenario, but you start to get, come on, guy, you really think these guys are going to do anything? Whatever.
Well, I'm not saying, the highly likelihood of these chalk winning is more than probably chaos, but you do look at it and you think about it. All right, Robert, I appreciate it, man. I got your score yesterday. Appreciate you participating in the Southern Ale House score prediction day. We did. Thank you, Robert. Appreciate you, man. Hey, right back to you. And listen, we did take about 22 calls yesterday. So if you want to jump in, just like Robert did, he got a score in yesterday. Don't feel like that you're blocking anybody. You're welcome to jump in at 205-342-9904. But when you look at the college football playoffs and you start going through, we're thinking that these things will happen. But what if they don't? But listen, Alabama's in a good spot. I like what Robert said. They control it. 3 spots up, number 7. And I don't like the trip to South Bend if the season ended right now, but it's not going to end right now. You got 2 more games, and you've got some teams that are ahead of you that possibly lose. I wonder if we could try to find a way to get Penn State an L, because I want to get them out of there. I just don't. Okay, they're not losing to Minnesota. They're not losing to Maryland. So Penn State, you guys are coast is clear, and you'll be able to settle your wins. Look at that schedule, that strength of schedule. We're going to talk about this with Brad Edwards. A couple of minutes, we got Brad Edwards coming up, but I'm getting some requests to go back through because Robert and I kind of got deep into the conversation about college football playoffs and what does it take? What does it take to get in? What does it take to be able to? All right, so let's just take it from an Alabama perspective, knowing that 99.99999 are Alabama fans, okay? Alabama, this is what needs to happen. Okay, let's create the pathway to get Alabama in. Okay, Mississippi State plays the Missouri Tigers. Okay, Missouri needs to beat, and this is the reason why. Okay, we look at the head-to-head stuff, throw it out because there's more than 2 teams that are tied. You don't use the head-to-head unless that everybody's head-to-head. So you throw out the head-to-head because that's the tiebreaker number 1. Well, then you go to opponent winning percentage. And what would make the opponent winning percentage is, I think, and this is a scam, but it's really not true, but sure, it sounds good, man. It sounds awesome. I think what Kalen DeBoer was doing is he was making sure that he was not going to beat these teams so bad. Like LSU, we beat them so bad, we destroyed their confidence, and now they can't even get themselves off the mat. What we were doing is we were playing with some of these teams and listen, I'm joking, by the way, but like I said, it sounds really good. Our opponents, when we beat them, they went on and won a lot of games. And so our opponent winning percentage is what would slingshot us in to the college football playoffs. Now, looking ahead, the Missouri Tigers play Mississippi State this weekend. They play Arkansas. That game's at 3:15. So you're going to know by Oklahoma if the Missouri Tigers were able to help you out. So that might be a little bit of a motivating factor. If the Missouri Tigers beat Mississippi State in Stark Vegas, Alabama wins out, they're in the SEC title game. It's that simple. Now, if say Mississippi State does not beat Alabama, Mississippi State beats Missouri, Missouri loses somehow, Brady Cook's not able to go, and something about that ankle that's been giving him problems all season. He's not able to beat Mississippi State. Well, they do have another shot. They could beat Arkansas the following week, and that was in Columbia. So you would have either that beat Mississippi State, or if they would be able to take down Arkansas Razorbacks. That would clear. Now, Alabama's got to win out. So you got to beat Oklahoma. You're 13.5-point favored. You got to take care of the Auburn Tigers. That's going to be a big number as well. Looking ahead, I want to see where this Missouri line is because I do think it's kind of okay. So it's actually a little smaller than what I thought. Mizzou is -7.5. Mizzou's -7.5. Let's go to Pat. Pat, good afternoon. You're in the game. So that would put Alabama as a highest conference champ in one of the Final Four. Not the Final Four, but they would be in the first four. And that would guarantee them a bye week, and you'd have a month off to prepare for the next game, which would be awesome.
Yeah, I thought about that, Ryan. Got mixed emotions about it. But I'm still worried to death about the possibility. You got to think, you can play Texas A&M more than likely Texas, and Georgia beat Texas like a stepchild. I don't know if this is your daddy's Texas or if this is the new Texas. That your daddy's Texas, didn't beat anybody really. You got down to it. It might have beat Oklahoma every now and then, but it really didn't beat anybody else. Come on, And I'm excited about the opportunity to win the SEC. However, that Lord forbid you was to lose it. We don't know what this bunch is going to do we?
Well, that's why I love what Robert said. You control your own destiny. Unlike you've got Alabama and Texas. Well, no, hold on. And I say that, you really don't. Now, you could control it from the end of the college football playoffs. You feel pretty comfortable that if you win, you're in. But you really need some help with Missouri, right, to get to Atlanta. But it all depends on what, and maybe Robert doesn't want to go to Atlanta. And I'm kind of mixed. Depends on what day and what hour. I'd love to go win an SEC title, but I also understand the dilemma of why you would need a little bit of a break, too.
Yeah. But, right now we could use a big break as far as getting players back healthy. I can't believe I know he was that on the sideline, kind of in the doghouse, but why Keanu, because he was getting some playing time earlier in the season, wasn't he? Did he play somewhere? Am I wrong on that?
He did. I think he had he was part of the safety or at least part of the pressure there. So Keanu Coote. Yeah. But Pat, I don't want to get into it now. We might have a chance. I'd rather someone talk on record about this. And then we can have some. Well, that would give me some freedom to kind of talk. But he made a mistake.
Sure. And but
I mean, and that's not me revealing anything. He's suspended from the team.
No.
So.
Yeah. But I still don't think it was a good reason for him to go somewhere else because if it was bad, then he ain't going to play anywhere.
I got you.
If it was that bad, But if it was not that bad, then eventually it works its way out of the doghouse.
It's something that. Wait, I'm not going to say anymore. Pat, give me a score. What do you think? Did you give me a score? You did not.
I'm watching. I was going to go 31-17, but I'm thinking that we got to have some style points. The more I think about it, because Ole Miss and Oklahoma was a 12-point game. Ole Miss beat Oklahoma by 12. I'm thinking that we need at least 3 scores. And do you think I'm wrong on that?
In what way?
And then we just got to win because in the event this thing goes into some kind of crazy tie kind of a deal, wouldn't it be better if we had more style points and that we beat Oklahoma by 3 scores? I hate style points,
Well, I don't know if you need style points. I mean, because the teams that you're competing with, but I mean, if you want to look at the committee and try to do something more appealing, 25-15, Tennessee beat them out there. If you're trying to debate between Alabama and Tennessee, go out and win it convincingly. I do think that that's important. Oklahoma total yards. What do you think?
Oklahoma total yards. I've got total yards from Oklahoma about 312. I've got us winning by now 42-17.
Oh, so you've moved it up. Okay.
Oh no, yeah. I said I was thinking about 31-17.
Okay.
But I want more points. I want to go 42-17.
Okay, I got it. Thank you, man. I appreciate you, Pat.
Wishful thinking, Ryan. I hope it's not wishful.
All right, let's go to Brad Edwards. This guy is a veteran college football analyst, Gridiron and the Gospel. Gridiron and the Gospel. Let's go to Brad Edwards. Brad, I hope all is well. Welcome into the game. All right. We lost Brad there for just a second. Let's get Brad back on there, and then we'll dive into a couple of different things. Appreciate Pat Elias. I see you up there. We're gonna get work to those phone calls coming up here in just a couple of minutes. I'll try to squeeze you in. We're also going to talk with Aaron Torres coming up, 2:15 Fox Sports, which we're affiliated with here on Tide at 100.9. Hey, we're also taking money up, not money, but we're doing non-perishable items for the food bank, West Alabama Food Bank. So as we approach Thanksgiving, certainly we have many things to be thankful for, and you can drop those at our front door. I just went out and took a big winning package out to one of our listeners, and there was a couple of sacks full of groceries, and we're going to donate that to the West Alabama Food Bank. So you can drop it here on 142 Skyland Boulevard as we approach the Thanksgiving season, the West Alabama Food Bank. So raising some of those non-perishable items as we approach the Christmas, holiday, Thanksgiving, those options there. We're going to get some phone calls coming back. Let's go to Brad Edwards. Brad, I hope all is well. Welcome into the game in Tuscaloosa.
Thank you, Ryan. All is well here. Starting to get cold up here in the Northeast. Well, actually, that was the topic of conversation on Tuesday night, as you remember, when they put up what would the playoff matchups look like if the season ended today, and you had 3 SEC teams going up north to play those first round games. So I don't think it's going to end up that way, but would be fun if that happened.
I heard Reese getting this little shot in there talking about us not being tough, and he's right, because it's currently 61 degrees and I'm freezing here. I mean, it is but the wind's blowing, and we're going down to the 30s tonight. So, man, I mean, it's starting to get kind of football.
Hey, I'll tell you this, it really doesn't get a whole lot colder here than it does down there. The difference is when it gets cold here, it stays cold. It doesn't go from 30 up to 60 in one day. It'll get below 40, and it pretty much stays below 40 for months. But I'll just say that. I mean, I was born and raised in Mississippi. Obviously, went to college there in Alabama, and it was not affected that much by the winter as much as I thought I would be when I moved up here. So,
all right. So I have a different story. Okay. I went into and found my wife in Indiana. My dad was working at a union job up there. He was a union electrician, and he was working a shutdown, and I went up and we stayed one winter up there. And the first time I ever shoveled snow, I said, man, there's got to be a better way. And I know the way because I lived in it. Okay, I'm going back south. And I because we were so close to the lake, the Great Lakes, and we would get that lake effect snow.
Yeah, see, that's the difference.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, it was so bitter. I mean, I'm talking about it was bone-chilling cold.
Yes. And by the way, Notre Dame and Michigan's not going to be hosting, so you don't have to worry about that. But I was going to say Notre Dame is near the lake.
Oh.
Ohio State's not. I'm trying to think of. Penn State's not. So yeah, I mean, Notre Dame would be the one of those three. I would say that's the one. If you're a Southern team that you don't want to get sent to, not that it necessarily would be freezing, but I think that one has the most potential to be a lot colder than it typically would be in the South.
Yeah, and so, matter of fact, Notre Dame would be, if this season ended today, Alabama would be traveling to South Bend, Indiana to take on Notre Dame, which would, get to see touchdown Jesus.
Which, by the way, I don't think that one's going to – I think if you look today at all of, okay, this is where it would be at this moment, you can pretty much toss out all of those except for the possible 5 versus 12. Right, but the rest of them is there's going to be movement. I'm not saying that they're going to necessarily be upsets, but there definitely will be movement. And so, I think it's unlikely that many of those matchups end up where we see them right now.
Brad, let's go back to the releasings last night that we saw on ESPN on the release show. Give me your reaction. Give me, I don't have to box you into the SEC. Just go anywhere you need to go. But what was your biggest takeaway?
Well, my first surprise was that Georgia was at 10. I don't know how many spots are really expected them to go up off of one game, but that one really did catch me off guard when you saw how far they fell after losing to Ole Miss. And then they come back with a win over a top 10 team, and it hardly does anything for them. Now, look, I think everybody in your audience would agree with me that, like, the selection committee, if we're assuming their job is what they say it is, which is to get the best teams and put them in that order, there's no way there are 9 teams that are better than Georgia. And I don't care if they have 2 losses and all that. And look, I know even fans there are probably looking at the 6 teams ranked ahead of Alabama and saying there's no way all 6 of those teams are better than Alabama. But certainly when you look at but here's the thing with Bama. When you've lost a game to Vanderbilt, it's kind of difficult to say, oh, there's no way Indiana could beat you, or there's no way. Look, on a given day, the way that we've seen Alabama play sometimes, some of these teams could beat them. Now, they've gotten a lot better. I don't know if they're capable of going out and playing the way they did against Vanderbilt again. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But when you look at Georgia and who they've lost to, now granted the Ole Miss loss was ugly. It was lopsided. But when your losses are to Alabama and Ole Miss, both on the road, and then you've beaten Texas and Tennessee, I mean, the idea that there could be that many teams that those people in that committee really believe are better than Georgia, that caught me off guard. And basically, Georgia's the last team in right now, and they don't have a big game remaining. I got UMass and Georgia Tech. Probably they're not going to end up in the SEC championship game. So you're looking at a very good chance that Georgia is going on the road in the first round. I wouldn't want to be the team hosting them. And look, and I'm not saying that they're as good as they have been the past few years, because clearly they're not. But they're not the 10th best team, I'll tell you that. And so that, to me, that's just kind of a starting point for questioning the legitimacy of everybody else's ranking, because they're already showing there that I don't know they're taking this as seriously as they should.
All right, so Alabama needs a little help. They need Missouri to go beat either Mississippi State in Stark Vegas or beat Arkansas at home. Both that they will be the favorite in this particular game. There's 7.5 points over Mississippi State, but hey, these teams are fighting for something and trying to block Alabama to go to Atlanta. What method would you prefer? If you're a coach, Lane Kiffin's already voiced his opinion.
Yeah.
Where would you be at? Do you think going through Atlanta? Because there's a risk there.
Yeah, look, if you could guarantee me that I'm going to host the first round, then I think I might take that and say, all right, just lock me in for that. Let someone else go to Atlanta. Because the worst case scenario, what you don't want to have happen is that you go to Atlanta and lose, and then you either, I mean, obviously the very worst case is you fall all the way out of the playoff mix, then you don't go at all. But the next worst, which is also bad, is to end up going on the road for the first round. But if you lose, here's the thing, even if you end up hosting the first round, you're going to end up playing the maximum number of games, because you're not, if you're not the conference champion, you don't get a bye in the first round of the playoff. And if you are in the conference championship game, you don't get off that first weekend of December. And so that the teams that are in that scenario that lose the conference championship game but still get into the playoff, they don't get that week to rest that some of these other teams are going to get. And I think that's what you don't want to have happen, is that you don't get that extra week. And so, look, I do kind of agree. If you watch Reese's interview with Ward Manuel,
okay,
on the show last night,
you know where I'm going. Okay,
yeah. I do think, based on previous behavior by the selection committee during the 4-team model, that it is highly unlikely that a team that makes the conference championship game is going to end up being penalized for losing it. But once again, there's a difference between being penalized by being knocked out of the playoff and being penalized by not getting that week off that some of the other teams are getting. And I think that's the more dangerous thing. I think that's the more real threat to your season, is having to play that extra game, not just because there's a chance that a key player could get injured, but also it's just one more game of wear and tear, and your guys being, more tired when they finally get to the end. So that to me is what you want to avoid. So look, in Alabama's case, I mean, look, it's not like you can afford to risk losing a game. I mean, you obviously want to win these last two. I mean, one of them's the Iron Bowl, obviously. But go out and win the last two, and if that puts you in the conference championship game, then go win the game. There's your motivation to win it. If you're not motivated by winning an SEC title, be motivated by getting the bye week and getting a week to rest, because I think more than likely that's where they're going to end up. And so if you're in it, you might as well win it.
Brad, I still have problems, and you and I have talked about this before, but when I think about the Big Ten and I think about Ward Emanuel, but anybody that's a current athletic director, we could go through this entire roster. Current athletic directors, to me, that have a financial gain being on this committee, I just have an issue with. Am I wrong for having an issue with this?
Well, no, so you're not wrong to have an issue with that. And I think, on top of it, one of the problems I have with an active athletic director is that he has so many things on his weekly list of responsibilities that are more important than evaluating college football teams. And I'm not saying that any one of these guys is not paying attention, but let's be honest. On a Saturday, they're locked in for a good bit of the day to the one game that their team is playing. So for him, if whatever Michigan's doing, he's locked into Michigan. The same thing is true for every other athletic director out there. They're not spending half their day watching these other games, and at some point they've got to catch up and see these games that they didn't see on Saturday. But the question is, when you're responsible for running and managing all these other athletic programs on your campus, where are you finding that time to do that? I don't know. I just think it's a lot to ask of someone who has a full-time job that is probably not a 40-hour week. You're probably working a little bit of overtime already, especially in the fall. So I don't think those guys are the ideal candidates for this job, on top of the fact that, like you said, there is a vested interest in terms of there being financial gain for them through, what the members of their conference are able to achieve.
Brad, let's go to Alabama and Oklahoma. Alabama's a big favorite on the road. Brent Venables has had 2 weeks to prepare. How could Oklahoma upset the Crimson Tide?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is Alabama does something that it hasn't done in a few weeks, which is turn the ball over. And especially if you have one of those games with multiple turnovers. I mean, look, the Oklahoma, I think, is finally getting some players back in the receiving core, but they're pretty much banged up everywhere on offense. And I think the offensive line is probably the weakest part of their team. And they're going to need some help to be able to score. And so I think from, whether you're Alabama or any other good team that's played Oklahoma in the last 2 months, it's pretty much as simple as if you don't give them a short field, it's going to be difficult for them to score if you have a good defense. And I think that's where it starts, is just take care of the ball. Don't give them anything as far as turnovers or a big play on special teams. And if Bama can just do that, I think that's step number one. And then, like any other situation where you've got a road game, especially, in the types of places that you're going to be in the SEC. And then, this is the first time you'll have played Oklahoma as an SEC member, but I've been there for games before. It's going to be an SEC type environment. The fans, even though they're having a bad season, this is kind of their bowl game. I mean, if they get to 6-6 and go to a bowl, obviously that will not be as big as whatever opportunity they have to ruin Alabama's season here. And so I think you're gonna get their A effort. Whether you get their A execution is another story, but just don't give their crowd a reason to get into the game. So you want to come out sharp and obviously take care of business, get points on the board early, and make sure that they play from behind because turn it over early, let them get on the scoreboard, get a lead, and I think that's the kind of the recipe for Alabama getting in trouble in this game.
You think Indiana can keep it respectable against Ohio
I do.
State? Okay. Wow.
I do, and I think that the Seth McLaughlin injury is going to help, Indiana in that there's another injury on Ohio State's offensive line. They've had a few, or at least they've had another big one already. So they're now down a couple starters on that line, and look, Indiana. It's easy to look at their roster and say I've never heard of any of these guys, and you look at their recruiting profiles, and I don't even know how many 4-stars they have on there. Not many. They're pretty much 2- and 3-star guys, if not a few walk-ons, and yet their numbers on both sides of the ball are really good. Now I realize they have one of the weaker schedules in the country, but they have done to teams what you should do if you are much better, right? Like they've gone out and they've had one game that was closer than 14 points. And so they've done it, like I said, on both sides of the ball. And so I think that they're good enough at most positions to be able to hang in there. If Ohio State does not bring its A game, I think this could go 4 quarters. And if it does, then I don't think there'll be a whole lot of questions about Indiana and whether they deserve to be in the playoff when it's all said and done. If they get blown out, that becomes a much different story.
Yeah, it's a lot of topics. You almost have to stop. So, what a job. This. I understand the strength of schedule. I get it. We were talking with one of the analytics guys earlier. He said they've not beat a team in the top 40. Whew, man. But still,
yeah. Well, hey,
they're
look,
Indiana. They're 10-0.
But the one to me that I just keep coming back to is Texas, and I know everyone. I didn't say everyone, but I've seen a few people predicting the upset. But I think most of us we kind of this time of year start looking at these scenarios of okay, if the favorites win, and that assumes a Texas win over Texas A&M. If Texas does not beat A&M, and that obviously is not a gimme. Anybody who pays attention knows that A&M is good enough. Let's put it this way: if the Texas team that showed up last week in Fayetteville, and midway through the fourth quarter had a 3-point lead, if that team or the one that won by 3 in Nashville over Vanderbilt, if that team shows up in College Station, they're probably going to lose. So if that were to happen, if Texas were to lose to A&M, if the favorites went out everywhere else, and where you would expect these teams to win over these final 2 weeks, Texas is going to have one win over a team with a winning record, and that would be Colorado State. Like every power conference team they play, so whether it's the teams they beat in the SEC or Michigan out of conference, will all be no better than 6-6. And I just look, even though they're sitting there at number 3 right now, and if they win this weekend, they'll probably be sitting there at 3 at worst next week. How do you put a team into the playoff if they're 10-2 and have beaten one team with a winning record, and that's a team in the Mountain West? Like that just that's what the committee does not want to have to deal with, because can you imagine them losing one game and then falling from number 3 all the way potentially out of the playoff? Or if they don't drop them, what justification do they have that they're going to try to put out there publicly for keeping them in? Are they going to say, oh, well, they have – I can already tell you what they'll do. They'll say, oh, they have X number of wins over bowl-eligible teams, because they'll have like 5 wins over teams that are 6-6. And that's the way they'll frame it, instead of saying, oh, they only have 1 win over a team with a winning record. But I'm telling you, if Texas loses, man, that is the worst nightmare for the committee if they lose to A&M, because they will not have anything close to a quality win.
Brad Edwards, you can find him at Gridiron and the Gospel. Him and George Schroeder break down college football. Get it where you get your podcast. J. Brad Edwards on the Twitter account. J. Brad Edwards on the X account there. I'm still calling it Twitter. I guess I'm old school.
Yeah, I do too. I know.
I mean, I keep reminding myself it's no longer Twitter, but we tweet from X.
You know what? It's going to be one of those things. Like it took a few years to adjust to Division 1A and 1AA becoming FCS and FCS. And a lot of people said, I'm not going to say that. I'm just going to keep calling it 1A. Well, eventually we all got on board and we all did it. And I'm sure the same thing will happen with X.
It just takes a little bit of time. But you can find J. Brad Edwards on the X account. I appreciate you, Brad. Have a great rest of your day. And if we don't talk to you before Thanksgiving, have an awesome Thanksgiving holiday with family and friends. Thank you again. That'll be at 8 o'clock. We've got a lot of things happening later this evening. You've got the Kayla DeBoer show. You got Hey Coach. And then you've got Alabama and the Illini. So, and we got an injury report. Remember to keep it at Tide 100.9. Ricky Henderson. I never knew Ricky Henderson about third, but there is a good chance that he did. Ricky Henderson. I don't remember who was in the two hole, but I do remember 3 was Mark McGuire. Aaron's not as big as Mark McGuire, but he's as good as Mark McGuire. Aaron Torres, Fox Sports national analyst. Torres, how are you, man? Welcome into the game in Tuscaloosa.
Ryan, I'm great. How you doing, buddy? Sorry, I couldn't be. What's it called? Ricky today. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for those, sorry about that. This is an inside joke. I always call Torres Ricky, and I don't even ask him for an interview. I just say Ricky ? And Torres says absolutely yes, yep, Ricky, we're good. Ricky is Ricky Henderson, one of the greatest leadoff hitters out there.
Let me ask you a question. Since I know that you were as riveted by this year's World Series as I was living in Los Angeles, should we start calling this Shohei? Because Shohei is the leadoff batter. Of course, Shohei, the iconic dual threat. Okay.
It's my connection.
I think Ricky sounds better.
I think it's my connection back to the 80s and 90s. It just, Ricky.
Sure.
And see, Ricky is, you know this, Torres. You've been doing sports talk radio for so long. The reason why I love you at 2:15 is you got to get the show started off at a fast pace. And today we did with Josh from College Football Nerds. But if that first guest is not good, you just the show gets to a slow pace. So that's why you're Ricky.
No doubt. Well, I appreciate that, and normally most weeks we can do Ricky, but today I had to do a little reaction to that college football playoff ranking, and I know that there's a lot of stuff that you want to get to as well outside of it. I know, as you said, by the way, Birmingham, the center of the college basketball world tonight. I'm so excited. Oh my goodness. So, we got a lot to talk about, buddy. We got a lot to talk about.
All right, I want to go back to the college football playoffs. I know we've kind of spent the majority of the day on the college football playoffs. So I want to ask you just your reaction. I don't want to box you in. Just like I tell all the guests, we've had some great guests today that helped us understand the college football playoffs from their perspective. What was your biggest takeaway?
Well, there must be something in the water in the state of Indiana, because for years in the 4-team era, anytime that there was a debate, it always felt like, well, Notre Dame, I mean, they got a nice record, but they shouldn't be in the 14 playoff. They're whatever. And now it's the Indiana Hoosiers. And, listen, I know I'm on an SEC country, and I know I'm talking to a host that covers a team that is very much, I don't really think Alabama's on the bubble. I think they're probably on the right side of the bubble, but I also understand somebody that's sitting there saying, Indiana's resume doesn't match up with not only Alabama, but Tennessee, Georgia, if Texas loses to Texas A&M, whatever. I also just think, one, it's idiotic to even have this conversation this early. And I just felt like the whole show last night was ESPN trying to tear down Indiana and everything they've accomplished this year. So that was really my biggest takeaway. Was it just felt like there was an agenda going into the show. There's real conversations to have about their schedule. I think just schedules in general in this expanded conference era, not so much the expanded playoff, but the expanded conference era. But I didn't like the tone of the show, and that was actually what we talked about a lot on my show this afternoon for anybody that cares to listen.
You talking about the fighting? The fighting, is that what the problem that you had? No.
Yeah, Yeah, no, I mean, it was just before they even revealed the bracket. It was, well, I mean, if Indiana isn't even competitive this weekend against Ohio State, they don't belong in the playoff. And it's like, what are we even talking about? They're 10-0. I understand they have no great wins, but they also, unlike Ole Miss, unlike Tennessee, they have no bad losses. And I thought there was a tone of, and by the way, for people who aren't totally following, the way the playoff is setting up right now, if everything kind of goes to plan, there's basically going to be 13 pretty good teams for 12 spots. It would be the 5 automatic bids. In the SEC, it would be the winner of Texas A&M and Texas. It would be Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, and Ole Miss. And in the Big Ten, and you add in Notre Dame, and then in the Big Ten, it's Indiana, Penn State, Ohio State, and Oregon. And so you do the math on all those teams. If you include automatic bids, you include the group of 5 ACC Big 12, that's 13 teams for 12 spots. And so it just felt like the tone of the entire show was, let's tear down Indiana because they're standing in the way of a quote-unquote more qualified SEC team from making the playoff.
Okay.
That's what I meant by that.
Okay, yeah. Well, and I don't know if you guys do this at Fox Sports, but I was told, I got a friend of mine that worked at ESPN. He said literally in the back room, in the green room, he said they would sit there and they would tell us, "Now listen, you guys going to get in a fight out here, okay? I mean, I want you to take. Well, I don't care about that side. That's not my side. Well, your job is to defend that side." And he said literally, like sometimes you get on the wrong side of it. I don't do a team show, so I don't know if we don't do that, but he said it's kind of like a mandatory thing at ESPN. He said they want to see fights. So I always think about that when I see those on air, bickering back and forth.
Yeah, and I guess, and it's exactly what you just said. It's to create controversy, create drama, whatever. The sad part is, and we know this because we're both very successful, but there's a lot of great content out there that isn't confrontational. In the college football space, Josh Pate does a great show. You do a great show. Jason Martin and I do a great show. I don't think I've ever raised my voice at Jason Martin or yelled or screamed. And it's like, I get that, drama sells and all that. And I think some of the best radio I've ever done is when my partner and I genuinely disagree on a topic. Arnie and I used to get into it all the time because there were a lot of times that we would just disagree. But I do agree that contrived, fake disagreement isn't good TV. And I think there are smart ways to have conversations, even on topics that you disagree on. You could think Indiana has a playoff resume. You could think they don't have a playoff resume. You could think that the SEC is overrated and they don't deserve 5 teams. Whatever the debate is, you can be smart about it and make it interesting without yelling and screaming. But all I can tell you is I can't speak for anyone else, but I've worked on every show on Fox Sports Radio, and I've done some of the TV shows too, and never once have they said you have to take this opinion because whoever you're working with is taking the other side of it.
All right, Torres, we're going to go to Oklahoma. We're going to Oklahoma. Chris Plank's Oklahoma Boomers Sooners. And by the way,
how many times you had him on this week?
All right, we had him on yesterday, but let me say this. Listen, I know Chris very, very well. I've been on his show. He's been on my show. You've worked with him. He was Mr. Mr. Poormouth yesterday. I mean, to hear him talk. I mean, you'd think Oklahoma doesn't even have the cleats to wear on Saturday. I mean, it was like poor old Oklahoma, and I'm going, are they that bad, Chris? Are they that bad, or are you just trying to set us up for a little snake bite out there?
Not good. What I would say, though, is I think I'm in the minority on this, is they're not good this year, but I think it's a little bit, to me, aggressive, the argument that Venables is on the hot seat. And I don't think he's been good. Well, first of all, he made a big mistake getting rid of Dylan Gabriel for Jackson Arnold. That's one. But when I look at Venables, first of all, the one thing, and I talked to Plank about this over the summer, is Oklahoma fans, I think, understood it was going to be an adjustment period. I don't think they thought it was going to be this bad where they were 5-5 and potentially going to miss a bowl game. But I think they understood there was an adjustment period. But, to me, I don't think Venables is some terrible coach that doesn't know what he's doing. I think they have one very clear weakness, which I'm sure he talked about. It's the offensive line. And you can't really tell how good they are because that weakness is so obvious. If you had a quarterback that can't throw a spiral, it's hard to gauge how good the rest of the team is, and that's kind of where they are. And the thing with Venables, too, he's a defensive coach. The defense gets fixed. And so this is all a long-winded way of me saying I don't think they're probably quite as terrible as their record indicates. They also, by the way, and I know you know this, but they pretty much had the toughest schedule on paper coming into the SEC. They still have Bama and at LSU. That's in addition to at Ole Miss, Tennessee at home. You go on and on down the list. So the point I'm trying to make is they aren't very good. They're not going to. I don't think they're going to win on Saturday, even at home. I think this is a game that Alabama should control. But I don't think this is like a totally sinking ship, and you gotta flee and get everybody off of it, if that makes sense.
Okay. So Alabama just needs to take care of business, but we need a little bit of help.
Yes.
We need the Missouri Tigers to either beat Arkansas next week or beat Mississippi State. Both likely heavy favorites. They are a favorite against Mississippi State, 7.5 points. And then we're there. We're in the conversation. So
what is the argument? What is the pathway? I'm sorry. One thing I haven't done. Go ahead.
Well, it's chaotic. Okay. And this is where Tennessee people have a lot of issues because they beat Alabama head-to-head, and you look at 2-loss, but head-to-head is thrown out because more than one team is tied for the 2-loss, okay? So if you had multiple teams there tied, so then what happens is opponent winning percentage. The opponent, and I've got a theory, and you tell me if you believe this. I think when Kalen DeBoer looked like he was struggling, he really wasn't struggling. What he was trying to do is he didn't want to beat the opponent so bad that they lost confidence. Like LSU, we went down and thumped them. We killed every momentum. But these other teams like South Carolina, the Missouri Tigers, what's happened is Alabama's opponents, after they played Alabama, they went out and won games. And so Alabama's got one of the highest opponent winning percentages. So as long as Missouri as long as Missouri beats Mississippi State or Arkansas and we win out, we're in the SEC title game.
As long as Missouri beats Mississippi.
One. They don't have to win both. They just have to win one. If they beat Arkansas or Mississippi State, Alabama's there.
Wow, I didn't know that. So basically, you guys are going to the SEC championship game.
Yeah, but
that's interesting.
But if we lose that,
well, that was going to be my question. I have a theory, but I'm curious on your perspective on that conversation.
I'm nervous. I
think you should be.
I just something about this committee. It makes me create some angst. I'm a little nervous because the other way in, you're 100%. I mean, you went out. I mean, forget about. I mean, so maybe you pull from Mississippi State to go beat Missouri and Arkansas. Go Dogs! You haven't showed any life this year, so go take down the Tigers and Alabama wins out, then they're in. I would like to see a home game because economically, this is the part that we don't forget about. We forget about, but you and I, we deal with small businesses and sponsorships and things like that. Economically, it would be off the charts. A catalyst in a rough economy. Thank you, Joe. It would be.
Sorry.
By the way, happy birthday, Joe. I hope you had a great day. So I don't know if you know it's your birthday, but we just told you. Somebody did.
I was going to say, what is it, like 100, 110?
Yeah, something like that. But I mean, think about a boost from a local economy. Regardless of these college towns, economically, it's huge.
You're right.
So I do kind of want that for the local economy. A home game here? Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. First of all, I still can't get over Joe. By the way, when my grandma turned 100, she since passed, and she lived a very fulfilled life. The governor sent her a congratulations certificate. So, like, does Joe send himself a certificate? I don't know. These are conversations for another day, Ryan. But so the SEC championship game, I want to talk about this.
Okay.
Now, I don't think so. First of all, let me even backtrack. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that somebody gets tripped up over the next couple weeks. I don't think it's going to be Alabama. First of all, Ole Miss is going to a very good Florida team right now that's playing with confidence. I don't think Ole Miss loses, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. Tennessee, by the way, plays the final game of the regular season at Vanderbilt. Ask your audience what that entails. By the way, Texas's closest SEC game outside of the one they lost to Georgia, they barely beat Vanderbilt at Vanderbilt. So I'm not taking out of the realm of possibility that an upset might happen, but I am curious about the SEC championship game. And what Lane Kiffin said I thought was very important. I have been saying, by the way, I've been saying this since before we got to the 12-team playoff. I said that and by the way, that's not even factoring in the expanded conferences. But I've been saying a conference championship game is going to screw up everything because now, again, you're adding an extra loss. Now, the counter to that would be if you make the conference championship game and get in, well, then the conversation becomes, well, Jalen Milroe's got a twisted ankle. He's not 100%. Do you sit him? Do you do this? Do you do that? So it's just, I don't think we're going to ever lose conference championship games because they're just, you talk about an economic driver and an economic booster for the TV networks, for Atlanta, for Indianapolis, for whatever. But I don't really understand the purpose in this era. I don't think, especially in the SEC, I don't think we even know who the two best teams are. And certainly somebody's going to have confetti poured on them and they're going to get a big trophy. But I don't think that definitively means they're the best team in the SEC, So if they win the conference championship. So I wonder if we eventually do get away from them because I just don't see I don't really see the value that it once created. And I do see the downside, which is if you lose that game, you could sit there and say, oh, no, you shouldn't be punished. But if Alabama was going to be the 5 seed and host a playoff game, now they took a second loss. And then, you start factoring in, well, let's just say Tennessee is behind them in the standings. Tennessee's already beat them. Tennessee has fewer losses. Should Tennessee move up? Well, that's not fair because Tennessee didn't play. So there's just all these crazy hypotheticals. You look at, I was talking to somebody about this week, but look at Georgia. And I know I'm going in a lot of different directions, but forgive me. Let's say Georgia plays Texas in the SEC championship game, okay? And I don't know what scenario would have to happen for that to happen, okay? But let's say Georgia plays Texas in the SEC championship game. Let's say they lose to Texas, okay? So now they've just nullified their best win of the season, dominant win at Texas. Well, now that win means nothing. And then 2, now you're sitting there with 3 losses and 2 teams that you're fighting with, you've lost 2 head-to-head, Alabama and Ole Miss. And so I just bring it up because that conference championship game is going to create a lot of problems. I don't necessarily believe that the loser will be left out, but I don't believe that it's not a conversation at all that the committee won't have. If you go to that conference championship game, if you look bad, if you don't play well, if you whatever, I don't know. I just think it's a little bit more important. I think it's a little bit more important. It's a little bit more of an interesting conversation than maybe the committee is making it out to be.
All right. So, but the big problem, there's 2 problems that I have with the selection college football playoffs. Sure. One is an AD that has a financial gain should not be in a position.
You said that, yes.
I can't stand it. It just
you've been on that.
Okay, I know it's my soapbox. It's just it bothers me because I'm sitting there going, there's a financial gain. I mean, Torres.
But Ryan, you don't believe that they recuse themselves? They recuse themselves. That's what I'm. I agree with you, Ryan Fowler.
I mean, okay, here, Torres.
Yes, I agree.
You work for Fox Sports. Which one's better, ESPN Radio or Fox Sports Radio?
I recuse myself from this conversation.
Nope, you can't. You got
wink, wink.
I mean, yeah, right. I mean, it's Fox Sports, baby. And listen, we have Fox Sports here. Fox Sports is number 1,
good answer,
baby.
good.
And by the way, it's not even close. I mean, ESPN Radio has took a nosedive. It just, who knows?
Sure has.
But then the other part is, why can we just not do 1 best team, 2 best teams, 3 best teams, 4 best teams? And you know what? At Boise State, if you're part of it, you're a part of it.
I disagree with that. Okay. I disagree with that.
Okay. Why?
It's first of all, and I got into this argument with some punks on social media last night. First of all, every sport in America that I'm aware of has automatic bids for conference winners, division winners, whatever. I got to watch the NFL playoffs every year where some lousy team from the NFC South, the Atlanta Falcons, the New Orleans Saints, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when they don't have Tom Brady, they get into the playoffs every year and they stink. And they got no chance and they're lousy. And they not only get in the playoffs, they get a home field advantage in the playoffs. Okay. So to me, and by the way, it's the same with the NBA. College basketball, we have 31, 32, whatever it is, automatic bids. There is no sport in America that it is solely about the X number of best teams. And I was thinking about this today, Ryan, and we can get back to Boise versus whatever. I think that is part of where there is a lot of confusion with college football fans because the 14 playoff, the only edict of the 14 playoff was to put the 4 best teams in the field. And you could use whatever stat or data or whatever, but it was to put the 4 best teams in the field. By the way, that's why Alabama got in over Florida State last year. Florida State had a better record. They had this, they had that. But in the moment, Florida State with a third-string quarterback was not a better team than Alabama. But where college football fans are getting tripped up, this 12-team playoff has never been about putting the 12 best teams in. But part of why we expanded to 12, you have to remember, is because we were told that, hey, college football needs a West Coast presence. This was back when the Pac-12 was a thing. Needs a West Coast presence, and it needs a group of 5 presence, and it needs a this presence, and it needs a that presence. And the reason we expanded the playoff was to include everybody. And so including everybody requires us to do this crazy thing called actually include everybody. And it really sucks, and I feel bad if everything plays out and either Ole Miss or Tennessee, because I think they're the 2 on the chopping block that would potentially get left out. By the way, maybe it's Indiana or Penn State in the Big Ten. But the point I'm trying to make is, yeah, I would feel really bad if Ole Miss was left out. But at some point, the regular season does have to matter. And, oh, by the way, you lost to Kentucky, Ole Miss. I'm sorry. By the way, Indiana, if they lose 56-3 against Ohio State this weekend, I'm sorry, dude. Show up for the only game that matters. Tennessee, don't lose to Arkansas on the road. It's just I go on and on down the list of at a certain point there has to be a cutoff, there has to be a line of delineation, and I have no problem with the automatic bids because there are still 7 at-large candidate spots. If you take care of business, if you win the games you're supposed to, you'll probably get in. And again, the goal was never to get the 12 best teams in college football in the playoff, and that's where I think a lot of people are getting tripped up, Brian.
Okay. Torres, let's go to Alabama Crimson Tide basketball. Let's go back to last Friday night. Where's the issue? I mean, this is Aaron Torres' number 1 team preseason.
Yeah. The issue is you played a really good team on the road. Listen, and we see this in college football too. Right, I was thinking about this. Think about all the big SEC games this season, those 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central starts. Think about all of them. What do they all have in common? Tennessee goes to Georgia, lose. Alabama goes to Tennessee, lose. Georgia goes to Alabama, lose. Ole Miss goes to LSU, lose. LSU goes to Texas A&M, lose. Texas A&M goes to South Carolina, lose. Why do I bring it up? It is because it is really hard to win on the road in college football, and it's really hard to win on the road in college basketball. And so, Purdue, I've made fun of them. Their fans don't like me, whatever. It's a really good program. And by the way, I watched the game. I did. And Alabama had, a 6-point lead, 5-point lead with about 10 minutes to go on the road. And then that kid, CJ Cox, hit 4 straight threes. And, no disrespect to him, but best game of his career, best stretch of his career for sure. So, this is college basketball. And, we just got so passionate talking college football. And that's one thing that makes college football, and something that unfortunately college basketball can never capture is that the games just don't mean as much. And so, I think you just got to get better. You got to get right tonight. I know it's not a home game, but it's obviously a game within your state borders. You're playing a young Illinois team that has a lot of new pieces. This is one you do have to win, not because your season's over or your resume is busted or whatever, but you got to get right and you got to start playing well against good competition.
And you're an 8.5-point favorite, according to the experts out in the desert, because you're setting up, and it's not going to get any easier, right? You got Houston next week out in Las Vegas, and you got Rutgers. You got that pretty big weekend, and then you come back to SEC ACC Challenge back in Chapel Hill. I mean, Creighton here. North Dakota might be a little bit of a break. Kent State might be a little bit of a break. South Dakota State might be a little bit of a break. But then you're right in the SEC play. So pretty nice.
Well, I'll tell you this, and I'm not being sarcastic. South Dakota State put it on McNeese pretty good, and McNeese, of course, was at the very least competitive when they came to Tuscaloosa. So I don't think South Dakota State's a walkover if you don't. They're going to win, but it's not a walkover if you don't show up. So How about that South Dakota State knowledge? You weren't ready for that, were you?
Man, that's impressive. I know somebody that coaches from South Dakota. I'm trying to think. Kalen DeBoer. That's right, South Dakota.
Oh, I've heard the name. Yeah, Sioux Falls. That's right. Something about Sioux Falls, right? What did he do there? I forget. What was he? What was he? A running backs coach? He didn't really.
He was an All-American wide receiver. Then he coached for Bob Young as an assistant coach. Then he took over and won national titles at NAIA. So, I think he lost.
I love how his worst year there was like 13-2 and national runner-up. That was like his bad year.
Yeah, and this cat's like 14-1 in the month of November, all time as a head coach.
Woo! Well, it shows you. No, sorry, go ahead.
No, he's 9-0 at. The only 2 games he lost was in October in UW, and that's it. And he took over a program at Jimmy Lake that just about ran into the ground.
Well, and the other thing too is, you think about not only what he took over, but we were just talking about Indiana. You know what Indiana's best win is? A 6-5 Washington team. A 6-5 Washington team that was 12-0 last regular season. They ain't 12-0 this year. I can tell you that much. Now without Kalen DeBoer, they're not.
Aaron Torres Sports Podcast, one of the top sports podcasts in the entire country. Get it where you get your podcast. Listen to him on Fox Sports Radio, which we're affiliated with here on Tide 100.9. Aaron Torres at Aaron_Torres at Aaron_Torres. I appreciate you, Torres, man. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you next week. Thank you, man.
RTR, roll Torres, roll Tide, roll. I'm excited to watch tonight, and thank you for having me as always, Ryan, okay?
See you, brother. Have a great rest of your day, man. Thank you. Aaron Torres helping us out there. We're going back to a Southern Ale House score prediction day. I do remind you about the Wharf. If you're looking for a new pair of boots, Justin, Tony Lama, Red Wing, Georgia, Double H, Timberline, Laredo, and many more. How about Wrangler, Levi Lee, cold weather going down to the 30s. They've got the cold weather apparel, and they're open for another 90 minutes. If you're looking for work apparel, they check that box. Steel toe boots. Continue with more of the game. It is a Southern Ale House score prediction day. We got a big prize package lined up for you. Let's continue. We're taking your phone calls. Also want to remind you about Big Mike's. If you're looking for a great steak, about 50 minutes from where I'm located, go down and see the guys down in downtown Moundville, Auburn, Thomasville, Andalusia, Orange Beach, Gunnersville, Alabama. Big Mike's Steakhouse. Go see those guys. Tell them the game sent you. Let's go to Elias. Elias, good afternoon. You're in the game. I hope all is well, man. Hey, Elias. No Elias. No Elias. Elias going once, going twice. He's gone. All right, we'll put him back there. Let's continue, and we'll go to Marty. Marty, good afternoon. You're in the game. Jackson, I'm not sure. I can't hear the phone calls, so I don't know if. Okay. All right, let's try. Let's try Mitchell. Mitchell, good afternoon. You're in the game.
Mitchell's here. Are you Ryan Fowler?
I didn't know. I don't know. I was making sure. I mean, when you go one or two, we were.
Yeah. Most time that sounds like that's on your end, huh? When you go through two, and you don't get
when you go through two, but sometimes you just play the losing side. So you never know. I mean, maybe I was bad on my picks, but anyway.
Gotcha. Okay, Ryan. Clear some things up to me. I heard you talk to the last guest, Aaron Torres, there, and I started hearing this Monday morning early. But why? I know Tennessee now has 2 losses, but they control the tiebreaker over us. So why are we waiting? Why does Missouri can help us out by beating Mississippi State, and then we win out? I don't understand why Missouri's in that mix.
What do you mean?
And not Tennessee.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
All right, so let's go through the head-to-head stuff, okay? The SEC championship criteria. Head-to-head, if it matters. Like, let's say if it was Alabama and Tennessee, we were the only 2 teams sitting there, okay? Let's just say it was Alabama and Tennessee. You go to head-to-head, Tennessee beat Alabama, they would be in. So
right.
There it is. Tennessee, you're the favorite. The problem where it gets a little bit chaotic is head-to-head goes out the window because you have more than one team tied with 2 losses in the SEC. Then you go to the opponent winning percentage. That's why Alabama would be in if they went out and Missouri is able to beat either Mississippi State or Arkansas.
Right.
So if you set that up, that would be. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Does that make sense? Like another, Tennessee. So the two lost teams that are right now, obviously they've got to win out. The other team, like Tennessee's got to be able to win out. Georgia's got to be able to win out, which they should. UMass and Georgia Tech. The other two lost teams need to be able to win out. So if they don't,
what? Yeah, right. If they don't, then,
I know where you're going. I think.
Right. Right.
So what you're saying is if the two okay, now we're throwing a wrench in this. I know where you're going. You're saying what if chaos happens and we have more than, or no, we only have two losses. Maybe Tennessee wins out and somehow Georgia gets beat by Georgia Tech, which Georgia Tech's already beat Miami. Then
right.
Well, but then the SEC, it would only count with the SEC. So you eliminate Georgia. But the other two lost teams,
Ole Miss.
Yeah, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, and Texas A&M.
So should Texas A&M beat Texas?
Then they would.
That's going to give them two losses.
Well, no, I'm sorry. They only have one loss in the conference right now.
Texas.
I see where you're going, Mitchell, and I think it's a really good point. You're saying we're throwing out head-to-head right now, but we may not be throwing out head-to-head in 2 weeks. Great point.
Right.
It's a great point because it's one that we overlook.
And I heard them on the show last night. They specifically asked the chairman about should an SEC team lose in the SEC championship game, and that gives them 3 losses. How would they be looked upon the committee? And he said, well, we would treat it as this team has got high esteem for making it to the conference championship game. And the way it sounded, that a 3-loss team might necessarily not be eliminated because of the prestigious. They're basically rewarding a team to get to the SEC championship game. I mean, I personally didn't want Alabama to play in the case that we lose, but
I want the easiest path for us to get there. I know that sounds like the easiest way out, but it's when you take a look at just go beat Oklahoma, go beat Auburn, and let the chips fall where they may. But at this point, do you pull for Mississippi State?
Right. I mean, or on that last weekend, say A&M beats Texas, like I was just saying. Well, so A&M would go.
No, yeah, but it would just be Alabama play Texas A&M.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, they would just have the one loss right now because we're almost assuming that Texas is the higher ranked team. Texas is not a dominant football team. Don't tell our good listener down in Louisiana, but
Old Digger, we don't want to upset Old Digger.
Don't tell him. But when you look at Texas A&M, we just assume that that's going to cancel one of those out.
Right.
Is Texas? Are they off this week? No, they have no. They have Kentucky, and they have Kentucky at home. All right, let's see. Let's see where Texas A&M. Do they have 2 weeks to prepare for Texas?
I think A&M plays.
They play Auburn. They play Auburn at Auburn.
There you go.
And Auburn's.
I'm not pulling for Auburn. I'm sorry.
No, I'd rather pull for the devil himself.
Yeah, I mean, there's just some things a man won't do, and that's one of them. Just pull for Auburn. So, okay, Ryan. Let's now that you've somewhat cleared it up. I'm still kind of
no, but I think I've actually created more chaos because the dilemma that you faced is a real scenario. And I'm not sure. I mean, we'd have to paint a lot of losses, but let's just say it's Alabama and Tennessee sitting there at the end. Tennessee would have the head-to-head. They would go, and we would not. And to the SEC title, but I think we would still be in the college football playoffs. I think if we beat Oklahoma and beat Auburn, I think we're in. But the SEC title game, that you need a little bit of help.
Right.
glory, I bet I've got the audience going, what in the world is he talking?
I started it all because when I heard Missouri, if they win one of the next two and Bama wins out, then Bama's in the SEC championship game. And I was like, no, what about an Ole Miss first or a Tennessee first? I was just unsure how Missouri got in the picture. I really was, because we beat Missouri 34-0.
Yeah, the only reason why we need Missouri is to help us out for our and see. Kalen is a genius.
Sure.
What he's done is he's not beat these teams where they've lost confidence.
Right.
So he's kind of like
LSU.
But LSU was nothing that he needed, right? But we kind of but Vanderbilt and LSU cancel each other out, right? So
right.
But your opponent winning percentage. I mean, how would we add it up at the end? And what if it is Vanderbilt that has helped Alabama out the most?
Wouldn't that be crazy?
Thank you, Vanderbilt. That's all right.
Yeah.
That's okay. You're going to work for us someday. And we appreciate you guys. Thank you. Thank you.
There you go. All right, Ryan. Let's get to a score. Let's go. The Crimson Tide 49. Those Boomer Sooners. Let's go 49-13.
I'd like to talk about respecting your opponent, Mitchell. Nick Saban taught us for 17 years that we must have a tremendous amount of respect for your opponent.
But he beat the hell out of some teams too along the way.
True.
So 49-13. My total yards for those Boomer Sooners. Let's go about 263. No, 261.
Okay, 261. I got it. All right. Be good, Mitchell. Appreciate you. Thanks for letting my
right.
I mean, this is we call this brain exercises. Old people do crosswords. We try to figure out who's going to play in the SEC title game. Yeah.
Right. And right. memo to the Boomer Sooners in Norman, Oklahoma. You're next. Welcome to the SEC. The Tide is about to roll in. Roll Tide, Ron Fowler.
Roll Tide. Mitchell helping us out. Let's go to Elias. Elias, I don't know if that was on us or you, but we got you back.
Roll Tide, Ron. How you doing today?
Good. Was that us? Did I accidentally cut you off?
Yeah, I couldn't hear anything, but that's why I just called right back in.
Yeah, no stress. I just want to put you back in the line and took you immediately when I saw your name pop up on the screen.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the game as well. I actually be making the trip. I'm leaving out tomorrow morning.
So you're going to Norman?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'll be going.
That's a big trip, man. Big trip. But somebody as passionate as you are, 700 miles. You driving?
Oh, yes, sir. I'll be driving. I'm used to doing that drive before. I used to be stationed at Lawton. It's 35 minutes outside of Norman.
Okay.
When I was in the military. So I'm going to see a lot of military buddies as well while I'm out there.
Okay. Well, good. And so, when you get to Fort Smith, you are, there's nothing between there and,
I actually go through Dallas. I take that way.
Okay.
And I go up and, I'll be staying in Lawton. And then I'll be making my way up to Norman from there.
Okay. So you're going a little bit different way.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Really excited about the trip. And I think, my guys are going to be, just fine. But I'm going to also keep them in line, make sure they do what they got to do to handle business so we can go ahead and get in the playoffs here. So
yeah, well, what you can do is you can go down on the field and yell at one of the players and tell them, Missouri beat Mississippi State. And then that'll be like an extra motivation. So it'll be
right.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, indeed. Man, I'm looking forward to it. It's getting a little chilly now, but I'm enjoying this cold weather too. I'm tired of being hot.
Yeah, that's football weather. I wonder what the Iron Bowl is going to be like in a couple of weeks. They're going to be.
I think it's going to be like in the low 60s, upper 50s. Well, kickoff is 2:30, right?
Yeah. So that's probably going to save us. Okay, I was kind of pulling for cold, a lot of cold weather. But,
but with that sun going down during the game, it's definitely going. That temperature is definitely going to drop, though.
Oh, you know what? Looking ahead, the high is 58 that particular day.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah, that's good for the
all
ball
of us
weather.
Southern folks, we get excited when we see the 50s in football weather. Yeah, baby, the 50s. And they're up there blowing cold air, fog coming out of their mouth. Hey,
Right.
better them than me. Better them than me. All right. Give me a score, Elias.
Yes,
What do you
sir.
think, man?
Yes, sir. I got the good guys 38, Oklahoma 14.
Okay, 38-14, Oklahoma total yards.
273.
I got it, man. Thank you so much. Appreciate you, Elias.
Yes, sir. Thank you, and roll tide.
Yeah, safe trip out to Oklahoma. Thanks, man. Elias helping us out there. Southern Ale House Dockside, if you're looking for a great dinner special, you've got the Dock Burger. Oh, man, that looks really, really good. Single, double, or triple. You can do those different options. You got the blackened redfish and the chicken Parmesan pasta. That is top-notch. It's great. And don't forget about lunch tomorrow, bringing back for the Dockside location. You got mushroom Swiss burger, Dock Burgers, a chicken sandwich. Looks like kimchi chicken sandwich. And then also for dinner tomorrow night, blackened redfish, mushroom Swiss burger, chicken Parmesan pasta, which is, I had that a few days ago, chicken Parmesan, or my wife did, and I sampled some of the chicken parm that they've got at Dockside. You can find it, Marina Drive, Highway 43. Go past Winn-Dixie, go to a scoring leader, the greatest football coaches to ever walk the sidelines. We are talking little Alabama Crimson Tide football, and we are powered by Tuscaloosa Toyota, TuscaloosaToyota.com. David DeSantis, how about a Tundra, two-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, as low as 2.99 APR with a $1,000 Christmas holiday bonus cash. How about a Tacoma, as low as 2.99 APR for $36 with a $1,000 Christmas holiday bonus cash. We are Tuscaloosa Toyota, and we are the game right here. That's not like Penn State. We are Penn State. Remember they came here in like 2010?
They are overrated.
They are. We're reacting to the college football playoffs. I want to take just a minute. I know that a lot of people out here are talking about Jim McElwain, and a lot of theories out there. I think a lot of those are false. I think Jim McElwain was already eyeing retirement. I think, and I know that you can tie into different Connor Stallions and all these different things. I think Jim McElwain was ready to go to Montana and retire. It's where his off-season home is. Got a beautiful location up there. I want to say it's Glacier Bay National Park or Glacier something National Park up in northern Montana. It's beautiful up there. I've seen photos. But Jim McElwain retiring at Central Michigan. He won 2 national titles here as an offensive coordinator, very balanced attack. We wish Jim McElwain absolutely nothing but the best, and I hope we can catch up with him at some point. He's always been a friend of our program, and we'll hopefully get him on very, very soon. Let's continue, and we go on a Southern Ale House score prediction day. Southern Ale House Dockside and the original location, 1530 McFarland Boulevard. Let's go to Tony in Tuscaloosa. Tony, is this you? No, Jackson, cut that. No.
Oh, yeah.
No, cut that off, Jackson.
You need to stretch.
You don't get songs when you don't show up for work. When you do no call, no shows. No.
No, hold on now. Play it, Jackson. Play it, and I'm going to explain myself here. Go ahead and play it. Everybody start stretching. There you go. Look, why do you play Mercer at the end of the year, Fowler?
Get your walk-ons and backups, some reps to keep them engaged.
That's what I did for your callers the last 2 weeks. I let you empty the caller bench out there. You got the Joshuas or whatever that guy did. What is his name? Joshua. Keep playing it. Yeah, thank you, Jack. What's that joker's name? That calls from Georgia?
Josh. Yeah, Josh.
No. Josh is good. I like Josh.
Bama Nick.
No, I like Bama Nick. Who's the Milrow hater?
That's
hater?
Joseph from like Brantley or something.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Joseph with a G, because he's GED Joseph. That's how you empty the bench. You let those losers call in.
Yeah, I mean, like
not
yesterday,
Josh.
having
Josh
to take
is the
him
winner.
at 5 o'clock.
That's right. It hurt. It hurt me. It hurt me.
It hurt me
but
too.
I did it. It hurt us all. Hey, you know what? But him calling you at 5 o'clock also hurt him.
Yeah.
Because You kind of spanked that butt, didn't you?
I did. I got a hold of him yesterday.
There you go.
I kind of felt bad, to be honest with you. I was like,
I didn't.
I mean, it's.
Well, I feel bad. Guy's a fool.
Because he's so dumb. I mean, I'd like.
He is. He's full.
He's like, the Mercer game proved that Jalen Milroe shouldn't be the starting quarterback. And I'm going, and bless his heart.
GED, Joseph.
All right.
Spells Joseph with a G.
After the show, I'm probably going to get a phone call, the Kalen DeBoer show, because I told him, I said, call him 6:30 Wednesday.
Oh God!
I said, call him. Don't call me. Well, he said he had more time to evaluate than Kalen DeBoer. I said, well, call him and tell him that. Call him and tell him Wednesday 6:30. You're going to have your chance to step up to that mic right after Pee Wee and Grand Bay, and you tell him. You tell him that you know more than he does, and he's playing the wrong quarterback. Because I'm tired of hearing it.
Who's the highest rated quarterback in college football right now? You sent a thing out on your thing.
Oh, I did? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's Jalen Milroe.
Well, that was just for 1 week. It was just for 1 week.
Well, I mean, you look at it right now. This guy's first round draft choice. Any way you look at it.
By the way, Mel Kiper did have him in that first round.
You go ahead. He's the next first round draft choice. And let me tell you, maybe he's coming. Maybe he's starting this a little late. When people, one of the top callers on the show, in my opinion, the top caller, kind of made fun of the fact that about Milroe for Heisman shirts going to Africa. Let me tell you, they ought to be coming back because he's about to take over college football. It's primed. You can see it coming. Running against LSU with a little pass. Throwing the ball a little bit better. Hitting the shorter passes. Hitting the intermediate passes. The bomb comes back. The bomb is coming back. And the blowouts are about to start. And we're about to go on our pilgrimage for number 19 and 31.
Could you imagine the hate that we're going to receive?
Good.
I know. I love it.
Good.
I love it. I mean,
you know where the most hate's going to come from?
Joseph?
The SEC office in Stanky.
Oh, I thought you were talking about, yeah.
That's where the most hate's going to come from because they can't stand that we're the Kings. They try to do everything they can. It's not working. It's not working. And DeBoer is about to plant a flag. Think about that.
Could you? That's the part that is just so awesome to be able to, because they like Nick Saban used to say, they had us dead, buried, and gone. We're having to send respirators down there to give us some air.
Say it again. Gone.
Gone. Buried. Dead. Gone. What's wrong?
I love it. Yeah. I love it. I love it. I mean, hold on. How many games has Kalen DeBoer lost in November in the history of his coaching career?
All right, so I was looking this up. As a Power 5 coach, he's undefeated in the month of November.
Think about that. And not just that. I mean, but let's go back and look at it. What's his record coming off of bye?
Undefeated.
People, it's coming. It's coming. And we all need to get on the same team. We need to get all on the same side, pull for our players, pull for our quarterback, pull for our coach. Let's all unite because it's coming. All and we're going to be like Sherman burning our way to Atlanta through the college football playoffs and through the SEC championship
He's
game. Do you really think Texas wants us?
No.
Do you really deep down think Texas wants us?
No.
Do you think
they don't want Kalen DeBoer? He's undefeated against those guys too.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. Your coach is over in 2 consecutive years. Can you imagine going over 3 straight years?
Wow.
Coming. It's coming.
And here, old Digger from Louisiana, he's gonna, yeah.
He don't want any part of this. But they know what's coming. They know their Texas They are they haven't played anybody, and the one team they played, they got humiliated at home by. It's coming.
And I went late last night and I wanted to look up some stats. He's 34-2 all time in the month of November. I mean, we're talking about Sioux Falls, everybody, 34.
You know, Saban's jealous of DeBoer stats.
Because I can tell you, he wasn't undefeated in November, especially when it included going down to Lee County.
That's right. That's right. And you know what's coming in 2 weeks, and we're not going to talk about that just yet. But it ain't going to be Saban and Auburn type game in Tuscaloosa coming up with Coach DeBoer. It's a brand new day, people. It's a brand new day. The winning keeps happening. Just the amounts are going to get even greater with the numbers. I mean, everything is coming together perfectly right now. Perfectly. Milrose getting his confidence back. The defense is in its stride.
So are you saying clean sweep? Are you saying SEC title?
Yes.
Heisman winner?
Yeah. Well, he's not going to win the Heisman.
Okay, but he'd just be in New York City would be.
But first-round draft choice. Oh, he's definitely going to be in New York.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. I think he'll probably finish third. And then really, look, the kid from Boise State and the two-way player at Colorado,
Jenny is
give it
pretty
to him.
awesome. Yeah,
give it to him.
Yeah.
That's fine. Another multi-millionaire first-round draft choice quarterback that we never, ever had since Joe Namath. And he wasn't a multi-millionaire quarterback. We had never had that here. And now we can't stop it. We can't stop it. You quarterback at Alabama, guess what? You're going first round. Think about that.
And then you combine it with the way that we run offense.
Yeah, and then we got the next first-round draft choice coming in next year.
Yeah, it's thrown for 45 touchdowns, 0 interceptions in high school.
Imagine next year you let Ty Simpson, he'll be one and done. First-round draft choice. I'm just telling you. And then you got the kid from Texas coming in. It's not stopping people. It's just starting. It's just starting.
Yeah, we're starting to see this offense take shape. And see, I think, and I know this is I can't think of that political analyst that I like to talk about, but this is a deep conspiracy. But here we go.
Oh, my boy, Alex Jones.
Alex, I don't know how I forgot that. All right.
Yeah.
So we've got Kalen DeBoer and Jalen Milroe. See, I think what it was, I think this is a setup. Okay, he knew that he needed the opponent winning percentage.
This is awful. I heard that earlier, and I heard you say that. It's just absolutely the worst take I've ever heard in my life. I think
so
but go ahead.
Well, he didn't want to beat these teams so bad. He wanted to give them confidence. Like, look, man, we can play with Alabama. And he knew that he needed them, like LSU, then it didn't really matter. Just go beat their brakes off because he knew that didn't really, calculate in because they were playing common opponents. So he,
you always stick the heel of your boot on your rival's neck and give them the death blow
Auburn,
when they need it.
You're coming to Tuscaloosa
right. And it's coming.
Yeah.
Oh, it's coming.
So at that point, it really won't matter because the opponent,
we're not coming for Venables too, by the way. They're not a rival yet. They kind of are when it comes to blue blood.
Yeah.
But we're about to do the Highlander to Venables and Norman this weekend.
Yeah.
He's gone. We will end it.
Give me a score, and we got to do the pharmacy at Midtown.
That's right. We got to talk about that. We need to talk about that.
Richard's Flagpole supplement still.
That's right.
Still going good.
Excuse me, Big Richard's Flagpole
supplement. Big Richard's. That's right.
And my understanding is, come for the Auburn week, they're going to have a special run on the Super Deluxe Thumpkin supplement.
The what?
The Thumpkin. Look it up. Google it. We
No,
got the Thumpkin.
I'm on an
let me tell you,
employee-owned laptop here. No, sir.
It's Thumpkin special.
Jackson, you know what he's talking about? Oh, for Auburn. Okay, for Auburn. I got you. Okay, all right. Give me a
It's
score.
going to be a little Thumpkin special. I think we're looking at something like 34-13.
Okay,
and I think we're going to get a bunch of turnovers again, and it's going to get ugly, and they're going to be booing. And Venables, he'll have his resume ready.
All right, Oklahoma total yards.
220.
I got it. All right, Tony. The Pharmacy at Midtown, TJ Thomas, the Pharmacy at Midtown. You'll find him there at the back of Midtown. You'll find the playground. You got the chicken salad chick. It's close to the elevators, close to the stairs. The only sterile compounding facility in Tuscaloosa is the Pharmacy at Midtown. Make those guys, as we approach the new year, you're thinking about, well, how can I help the local economy? Keep the dollar right here. Let them do the hard work. 205-752-0627. I just said that. Let them do the hard work. 205-752-0627. They'll call those big box stores and help you transfer.
That's right.
The Pharmacy at Midtown.
You know how I always, here at the end, I'm going to attach the call to the team we're playing.
Yeah.
Look, if you're ready to experience joy and pleasure sooner rather than later, call the Pharmacy at Midtown and get you some Big Richard's flagpole supplement.
Roll Tide.
We'll talk about Thumpkins next week.
Hey, we gotta wish somebody happy birthday. I was hoping that maybe you could hum a tune if you don't mind.
Sure. Whose birthday?
Kit Kat.
Oh, Joe?
Kit Kat down in
Mobile. Kit Kat. That's right. Kit Kat. Why don't you and I do it together? Birthday to you.
Oh, you got a good little voice there. Happy birthday to you. We're off rhythm. You sing it. I'll listen.
Happy birthday, dear kitty cat. Happy birthday to you.
Well, that's so special. I mean, you got a good voice. I mean, you and Frank Sinatra don't have much.
You had to do a little crooner. I had to do a little crooner there. You can't come in tough on that. Happy birthday, Kit Kat, and everyone, roll tide.
Roll Tide.
And Joseph, lose the number.
Thanks. Tony, we'll go to J-Rob. Coming up next, Stephen in Raleigh, North Carolina. Bama Nick right here, Southern Ale House Score Prediction Day. I do remind you about The Standard, thestandardbama.com, home of the 20-inch pizza pie, pepperoni, meat lovers, cheese. Design your own. It is thestandardbama.com, thestandardbama.com. Wings, boneless wings, cheese sticks, mac and cheese bites. TheStandardBama.com. At 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports. Let's go to J-Rob Montgomery. J-Rob, good afternoon. You're in the game. I hope all is well.
Good afternoon, Ryan Fowler. How are you doing?
Man, I'm incredible. I'm incredible.
That's great. Excuse me for just a second. Joseph, you're an idiot. Man. You're a racist, and you're a disgrace to the good folks in Brantley and Crenshaw County. And you need to do us all a favor and not call this radio show again, because we don't want to hear it no more. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, where is Brantley? Because when he calls, I don't know where Brantley is.
Brantley is in Crenshaw County. It's below Luverne. It's kind of on the way to the beach. And the reason I know is because I went to school in Crenshaw County. I went to Howland Home. And that's number one team in the state, by the way.
Yeah, they played some great football. Can I tell you a quick story? Can I tell you a story about Howland Home?
Yeah, you did tell me this, but I'll hear it again. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So I did not realize that you went to Howland Home, but I'll tell you a good story. Is Howland Home, they got off the bus. There was a 7-on-7 tournament. This is back in the early 2000s. Howland Home got off the bus, And, I mean, we're talking about uniforms. They didn't have enough uniforms. They didn't have enough cleats. I mean, they looked like they went down to the thrift store and got apparel, okay? I mean, it did not look like everybody else, okay? You got, at this point, it was Hoover and all these big schools, Butler up in Huntsville, up in the Huntsville community, all these fancy tour buses. This group from Highland Home come in on the yellow cheese wagon. Uniforms didn't match. I never forget this Highland Home team. I mean, they were so good. They beat them up and down the 7-on. This, like I said, this has probably been 20 years ago, but it was at Alabama. This is back when they let us go to the 7-on-7 games. And I sat there and I watched this Highland Home team. I'm like, these guys are really, really good. I think there was a couple of D1 guys on that team, but man,
we did have one. His name is DJ Chambers. And unfortunately, he did not make it. He did go to the University of Alabama, but he didn't make it. He had problems dealing with college life and the big world of the University of Alabama. But it's a big change going from Highland Home in Crenshaw County to the University of Alabama. But unfortunately, we do have a graduate playing for the Bugs right now. So that is well, I'm kind of proud of it, unproud of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure, as you should be. But I'd forgot you went to Highland Home. So whenever I think about Highland Home, I think about this team that rode the cheese wagon in and all these, because at that point my high school was competing. And they were, they're a little bit fancy. They kind of got this tour bus and, they come off. Well, Highland Home, they spanked him like the first round. I was like, get back on that tour bus. Yes. So that's when you say Highland Home, that's what the first thing pops in my head is that right there.
Hey, the more things change, the more things stay the same, man. We rode that cheese wagon to every football game I ever played in. And we ate our pregame meal in the cafeteria, and it was better than the lunchroom food, I would say. Let's just say that. But no, man, I think you explained that well on the playoff.
Did I? I hope.
But
here comes Mitchell. Here comes Mitchell coming in here and trying to throw a. Well, what if this happens? No, don't discuss that. No, don't do that.
Well, it's going to change 3 times or 10 times probably before you get to the end of the season. So, you'll have to go back to the rule book, read it again, ask somebody to explain it to you so you can explain it to us. But I had one question for you, and then I'll get off here because I know you got callers who want to put the score in. So, when Josh from Football Nerds said Indiana's going to he said pretty much that Indiana's going to get spanked by Ohio State this weekend, I thought, does he ever use his talents and his skills to dabble in the Las Vegas betting world? Do you think he does that?
I don't have a clue. I mean, we've never talked about that. You think he should? Is that what you're saying?
Good.
Okay.
I think he'd be real good. He might be banned. You might not be able to find him a bookie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, could be. I mean, I don't know. I guess I could ask him. I don't know if he would discuss.
You need to ask. Well, he may not like you. That might be something private that he wouldn't disclose. But anyway, I just had that thought. But all right, I'll get off here, step out of the way, let some other guys get in. I enjoy your show, Ryan, and you're the best. You take care. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. J-Rob, Montgomery, Alabama. Bama Nick, Americus, Georgia. Bama Nick, good afternoon. You're in the game. I hope all is well.
Where's my music, Fowler?
I don't know. Let's see, Jackson. Oh, there it is. Jackson.
There it is. I gave him a heads up.
No, but don't be mean to Jackson. Jackson's got a cold. I tried to get him.
I ain't mean to. I sent y'all a text that I'm going to make a call later, Fowler. Have it ready. That was an hour and a half ago, 2 hours.
Well,
that's just listen, Fowler. Just listen. That's all you got to do.
Here we go.
with you. The bum bum bum. Bum bum
You know, I think you and Tony should get together and do like a band. I mean, you hear Tony singing a while ago?
Yeah, I heard Texas Tony. T-Town Tony, my man. T-Town Tony.
That was impressive.
I like Tony. I like Tony's calls. I don't mind him taking up my time on the show. I like listening to T-Town, and Bama Kathy likes listening to T-Town. She likes his voice.
Yeah, I mean that's good.
She don't like mine, but she likes T-Town.
Uh-oh.
But that's all right, fella. Let me tell all your listeners and the Bama Nick haters in the world, just quit panicking. And that reminds me, I was listening to John Talty today on the other show.
Uh-oh. You cheating.
He says, and when are you going to have John Talty back on your show?
I don't know. I mean,
you need to go get him to come on there. He'll explain it all like he did today on the other show. I ain't gonna mention the other show, but everybody knows it. He said, Alabama is going to be in the playoffs regardless. And he also said if we go to SEC championship and we get beat at 9-3, we'll still get in.
How does he know that?
Well, he's an expert. You wouldn't have him on your show if he wasn't an expert.
I mean,
you have all them other ones on there, so-called experts, and half of them can't predict scores where I can win money. I listen to them predictions, and I'm losing on there.
John's a good guy, man. He's always nice, and we've talked a lot.
Yeah,
I don't know if I've ever
you've
had
had him on your show before.
I have? Okay.
Yeah, I know you have. I've listened to him on your show before in the past.
Okay.
He explained it all. He said, because Alabama's sitting at number 7 right now in the college football playoff rankings, right? Yeah. Tennessee's at 11, Georgia's at 10. We're gonna make the playoffs. All we got to do is go undefeated. Just win the next 2 games. We're gonna be in the playoffs. That's no problem, fella. We all know that. But if we go to the SEC championship, because your buddy Sankey was on there saying, well, it should be a rewards game. The loser should be rewarded, shouldn't get penalized or shouldn't, and John was saying, even Alabama with a 9-3, if we lose in the championship game, whether it's against Texas, A&M, or whoever, that's going to be the only 2 that's going to be in it besides us. That's the bottom line. He said Alabama, if we would make it into the playoffs at 9-3. And he explained it, but I just thought that's why you need to get him on, call him up when you get off the air with me or tonight, call him up. So, John, come on my show and explain it like you did on Feinbaum show today.
Okay. All right, Barney Nick, I'll do that.
Yeah, because, I mean, he's sitting, explained it to the, your buddy.
Okay.
And I mean, he laid it out. He said, hell, we're better than Georgia. Because, Georgia's you saw the rankings. Georgia's sitting at 10 and Tennessee's at 11. I mean.
So do you want to go to Atlanta? I mean, do you want to go win the SEC?
Well, I always said we play for championships.
We do.
Alabama's always playing for championships. So I'd love to go to the SEC championship. And I think they'll win it. But do you want to risk that? I mean, them hairbrains at the committee, you never know what they're going to do.
It's kind of like my conspiracy about we're playing with these teams. We, and everything that we thought we're just kind of teasing these teams. We want to make sure their confidence stays high.
Yeah, I've been listening to you for the last 2 days, talking about teasing them. Yeah, you just throw that out, fella. We're not teasing nobody. We're in there to win every game, period. Now, I'll leave all the math statistics up to your other callers.
Yeah, you don't like math.
Tommy, Tommy, I mean, he's good. He's a good caller, but I just don't get in. When I call you a show, fella, I bring entertainment to the show. Tommy, I'll leave it to him as far as the history and the stats and all that, because he's an expert on that. I'm not. And that's what pisses me off too, Fowler. When these callers calling your show bad mouth me, I call your show to bring entertainment to a show, any sports show. I bring my calls when I call you and talk to you. I call it but get entertainment. I bring entertainment.
All right, here is the thing.
Brings entertainment.
All right. Do you know why nobody ever talks about Vanderbilt or Auburn or some of this other inferior?
Because they ain't worth a damn, pal.
Why do they always talk about you? You're like the Alabama of the SEC, right? I mean, it number one.
Because I bring entertainment to your show.
I mean, they always try to pick on the number one guy, and that's...
That's right, and I have no problem with that. That's why I call your show. And I mean, when I call and get on your callers that call this show, it's nothing personal, Ryan. I love all the callers, but it's nothing personal. I just try to instill some... When I call and get on, I try to make them better when they call the show. Right. Try to bring some entertainment. I'm tired of hearing about whatever the stats, Alabama, this. Alabama's great. They've been great for 50 years, and I'm born in Alabama. I love Alabama.
I mean, we've been kicking butt, taking names for a long time around here. We have.
That's right. But I bring other entertainment to the show. and Tit Kat, happy birthday. I wish you a happy birthday today on Facebook, because you're a friend of mine on Facebook. Of course, she ain't responded yet, but I...
Oh, you mean Tit Kat has not responded yet? What? All right.
Not to Bama, and she accepted my friend request about a month ago, and I like her comments on the Facebook page.
All right. So,
she loves Bama, She just don't want to admit it on your show.
All right. What'd you think about Danny G back in the game?
Danny G, my buddy. Danny G, T-Town, Tony, and myself are the three number one callers ever to your show, Ryan.
How about Paul and Lincoln?
Paul and Lincoln is great. Well, that's what I'm saying, Fowler. You got 4 calls.
Oh, okay. So we went from 3 to 4, and that just okay. So it's like it's kind of like the 4 teams in the playoff that earns a bye week. You guys would earn a bye.
That's right.
If we had a bye.
That's right.
Okay, I got you.
T-Town, Danny G, Paul from Lincoln, and myself are the best callers you ever had from when I've been listening to your show for 3 years and calling in.
Okay.
Greatest callers ever. And T-Town, you're a good caller. Danny G, I'm glad you called in yesterday and explained to Fowler about me when Fowler said, well, Bama Nick's taking a step back, and all that. I ain't taking a step back, Fowler. I'm just reverse walking.
All right, Jackson just gave me the break sign, so I gotta go. But
you tell Jackson, don't worry about it. We're going overtime.
Give me a score. I can't.
31-13, Bama.
Okay, give me total yards by Oklahoma.
272.
272. I got it, Bama Nick. I hope you have a great night, man. Thank you.
All right, Ryan Fowler. I'll call you later.
All right. Thanks. All right. We'll continue with more of the game. We'll go to Will in Gulfport. Will in Northport or Gulfport? Is it Gulfport? Will, I think it's Will in Gulfport. 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports. Let's go to Will in Gulfport. Will, good afternoon. You're in the game. I hope all is well.
Hey, you too, Ryan. It's been a while, brother.
It has. How's those LSU Tigers looking?
Brutal. Yeah. I mean, I thought it was a good hire at the time, but wow. It seems like he's lost the team. Yeah, he apparently doesn't work too hard. So I'm hearing all this stuff the last few weeks, and I'm like, it just, we're bowl eligible now, and I'm worried about Vandy beating them in Tiger Stadium, frankly.
Yeah, it's not good. Not good. So are you ready to move Brian Kelly on out?
I mean, wanted to finish the year, but there's got to be, it's just, he doesn't work hard enough, and he doesn't use the transfer portal the way it needs to be. But the key is Underwood. You got to get Underwood in there for next year, I think. And as long as that's secure, I mean, that's the main thing, really, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, but you can't. You can't count on a true freshman to bail you out. I mean, maybe he's.
I mean, I don't know. I mean,
may not have a choice.
I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, what choice doesn't look good? I mean, it's just. And then you got you guys over there looking like probably the best team in the country.
Yeah.
Which is, for me, being, my fandom is depressing because you think, okay, Saban's gone, thank God, but now it's the same as it ever was.
At least you're an honest guy with that. I mean, because most people won't say
always.
what you just said. I mean, most people will kind of all right.
You should know I'm not most people, Ryan.
No, I know you're not. You're a great guy. You're a great guy. Hey, Will, I'm just about out of time. Literally, I'm at the end of my show. Will you call back and we talk tomorrow? If you want to give a score,
Absolutely.
You're welcome to. If you want to.
No, I'll do it tomorrow. My brother.
Well, tomorrow's scores prediction will be over. But if you want,
it'll be 30 to 10, Bama.
30 to 10. Give me total yards by Oklahoma.
Oklahoma about 291.
Okay,
got
it.
A lot.
Thank you, Will.
Go Tigers, baby.
Yeah. All right. Roll Tide. Let's continue. Let's go to Tommy and Romulus. Tommy, good afternoon. You're in the game. I hope all is well. Tommy? No, Tommy. Tommy going once, going twice. Tommy, no. How about Mary? Mary, good afternoon. You're in the game. Hey, how are you, Mary?
I'm going to be quick.
Okay.
I'm going to go 52-10 and 272 yards.
272. All right, I got it, Mary. Thank you.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Hey, Jackson, we could probably put the same caller right, whoever it is on that bottom line. I think Will was gone. Tommy was. Mary was out. Who's on the bottom? Who's on the bottom?
I'll put him through so you can explain YouTube TV. He's having trouble.
No. I'm not. Who is it?
It sounds like Pat or Ellis.
Okay. Caller, good afternoon. You're in the game. Hello?
I don't want to be on the air, sir. I want you to tell me what to do on YouTube.
Jim, I'll be honest with you. I've got YouTube TV. I can't even explain it. It's so crazy.
Well, the other guy was going to tell me, Ryan. Let the other guy back on there, all right? Back on with me.
Okay. We do all we can do. We do all we can do.
Well, I did a lot for you, Ryan. Come on, man. Let me have the other guy.
No, but okay, I'll put you back on hold. No problem. Sorry, Jim. Man, roll Tide, Jim. I'll put you on hold. You can talk to Jackson. Jackson will help you. All right. We're a multi. Jackson, help him out, man. Help him out. I don't know what you can tell him. Just tell him to reset it. Any questions, just reset it. All right, we got to get out of here. Okay, you're not going to be able to get to those final few calls there. All right, Jim, I really don't. I don't know how to fix YouTube TV. If I did, I have it, but I don't know what I'm doing. The only good thing is that just reset it. Just reset it. That's the solve all. All right. We'll continue with more. We'll do it again tomorrow. I'm working on a very big guest. It has nothing to do with Alabama, but it has something to do with Oklahoma. First name B, last name B, goes by a nickname. I'm working on it. No promises. Talked with him this morning. Yeah, I did. Yeah. If he gets off the plane, if not, he'll talk to us on Friday. So it might be tomorrow, could be Friday. All right, we're going to shut this thing down. Love you guys. Appreciate you. All right, we're going to continue. We'll do it again tomorrow starting at 2 o'clock. Hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Roll Tide. Let's go beat the Illini right here on Tide 100.9. We remind you, we call this program The Game, and the only way you win a big game, the game of life, is to walk.
Take a breather this holiday season with 3 hot loan options to keep you cozy all winter long. Choose from our Winter Wonder Loan with flexible terms on up to $20,000. Our Member Express loan featuring low, fixed monthly payments, or enjoy a month-long break from payments with Skip-a-Pay. And the best part, you can mix and match to fit your needs. Don't miss out. Apply today. These offers end January 31, 2025.